What's up? What's up? Is we live?
Can't hear me. There we go. I was sitting here talking. I was like, they can't hear me at all. It's good to see you folks. I see all y'all waiting in the chat. Thank you so much for your patience as I troubleshoot as if I've, never run a live stream before. My name is Josh. I run Intelligame. We make connections between games and the real world, and today I'm really excited to share a particularly cool connection between games and the real world. The upcoming release of Black Nerd Problems, the book. Black Nerd Problems, the website, has already been around for quite some time. But we got two fantastic folks here who are willing to share some of their expertise from the world of Black Nerd Problems, Mr. Will Evans and Omar Holmon. It's good to see both of you here. Welcome in.
What's up, fam?
I'm sitting here. I didn't even go run today. I barely got out of the chair. I had my protein, all this stuff. I'm
just dumping the whey protein, just like it's in a shake off to the side. You can't see it right now, but I'm going to drink it as soon as we go off air. Right?
Did a push-up. That was all I did today. One.
I hope so. That would make me feel better.
Josh, how are you doing today, man?
It's been good. I've been looking forward to this for a minute. It's nice to have opportunities to celebrate good things with good people, and I can only imagine after running a website and going through whatever the back end stuff has to be to get a book like out in stores. I have to imagine it's pretty exciting coming up on next Tuesday.
Yeah, God, man, this has been a long time coming. I feel like we started writing this book like when we knew it was going to be a book. We started writing this. God, Omar, has it been a year? It's been well over a year, right?
It was 2019. We started
19 when we signed our lives away to write this book. Yeah, and so there's a good number of essays in the book that were written before that appeared on the website, of course, and then Omar and I, like, one of the things that we were like, well, if we do this, we want to write new stuff, right? Like, what's the reward for folks that have been following us for years? And it's like, oh, all these essays that, like, there's a version of them online, like, why would I buy your book? And so we wanted to make sure we wrote a lot of new stuff for it too. But yeah, I mean, it's been over a year. We've been like putting together the book itself, right? And even updating essays that have been out in the world. I mean, that's a whole new challenge when it's something like you wrote a couple years ago and you want to update it and make it feel fresh and all that. Omar, sometimes that was harder than writing some brand new shit.
It was, because we're talking like it's the. Because all right, we're right. Like Will and I like to team up on all right, there's a really good comic book we wrote, like we liked, right? Let's double team this, and it's like, we don't have the luxury of comic book panels to post in this because of copyrights. Like, I'll ski mask it, whatever, you know what I mean? Copyrights we did. It's Simon and Schuster. They can pick the tab, whatever, man. But apparently, management frowns upon that, so we have to really explain that detail. So certain details, I was like, oh man, this would work with a GIF or a picture. We don't have that option, so how do we make that work with just our words? I'm like, we gotta use. I'm a pictures man and a GIF man. You took that away from me. I'm like, so what am I doing here then? What I feel like Diddy on top of the roof in Victory. Yeah, like what am I supposed to do now, huh?
Can I say like the time like I really felt like I just kicked Omar in the shins with this is when we were talking about essays and I was like, hey man, you know what is like one of the funniest things you ever wrote that has to be in the book? He's like, what? I was like, it's got to be the Blade essay. It's got to be the Blade one. And Omar's like, but that shit's like 50% gifts. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But like, it has to be done, dude. It has to be done. And so like, I made Omar basically turn some shit that was mostly pictures and commentary on pictures into an essay, which still turned out like amazing, but I know that shit was not easy. I know it wasn't easy.
Oh, I cannot imagine. But I applaud the effort regardless. I definitely spent a lot of time laughing, some time reflecting, a little bit of time with some tears. Not the Blade essay, not that one. But
though it is beautiful. Though a black ass whooping is beautiful to behold. Maybe not tears. Maybe not tears on Blade. That's
right,
fair.
right. Not on that one. Well, I feel like we've started in the middle as one is wont to do when you know folks pretty well. But I want to bring us back a little bit to the start, and just give folks an opportunity to learn a little bit about who you are, and how you got started with Black Nerd Problems. Tonight we're gonna be hanging out. We're gonna just kind of chat with folks. We'll also make some time for questions. We may spread them intermittently, like seasoning. Which should be never mind. It's too easy and it's too early. I'm not gonna start off there. So
I'm a terrible cook, so I was just gonna roll with whatever you said. Like yeah. Like yeah, put some tire shavings on that shit. Yeah. I heard that slaps. Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, I will say. So I started using this meal kit service, and every recipe they're like, do this thing. And then put in salt, add salt and pepper to taste. And I would do that because those were the instructions. And eventually I could just feel my grandmother's just hovering over me.
Don't you put no salt.
That's the two, as if there are only two spices that exist in the cabinet, as salt and pepper.
Boy, you better get off your black ass and put some real seasoning on that.
Is that Mike Lowry? Hey, Mike Lowry, what the hell are you doing?
This is
Mike Lowry at?
Absolute shame. So so I'm trying to get better, slowly but surely.
Can I get the meal cart? Is there an African diaspora version of this meal cart? Can I get that? I feel like there's options. I feel like there's a few more options.
See, I can't, but I can't deal with that yet because I feel like it would just give me the ingredient but no proportions. I talked to my grandmother would be like, yeah, you just add, you take some beef and then you add this, so you add. And I'm like, you don't understand. I will ruin this because they're like, oh, just put in. The one place where I feel like you can get that wrong and be okay is garlic. You can put in way too much garlic and still be just fine. But other than that, it's a giant risk.
A pinch. A pinch.
But
my grandmother's fingers were big, man. A pinch was like you might as well dig your whole hand in. Oh goodness!
All right, well, tell us the origin story. How did you two meet up, get started, and I guess after that we'll have you read the beginning of the book, where you give a little bit of the background, the lead in to the Black Nerd Problems.
Which beginning do you want? The one where we lost 92 bricks, or the one where the one Simon & Schuster makes us
right? I was just saying.
Go ahead, Will.
The real story.
Yeah. So I mean, Omar and I, we both come from the poetry, performance poetry world, right? And so. We both were in poetry slams, which means that we slam for teams that end up going to the National Poetry Slam. And I think the one we met at was in Madison, Wisconsin.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. The very mean streets of Madison, Wisconsin's, specifically University of Wisconsin's campus, and which is like the opposite of mean streets. And yeah, so we met there, and I don't think we competed against each other that year, did we?
We competed against each other in 2010.
In the next year, or 2 years later, or something like that, right? But between then, so when you go to these national poetry slams, you literally just meeting people from all over the country, and
actually, 2009, you and I competed against each other. Then 2010, our teams competed against each other.
Oh, we went to head-to-head individually in 2009.
Oh, so this is some anime shonen arc.
It really is.
I didn't know I was a good poet till Will put me to the side in 2009 and said, "You're pretty. Let me talk to you, man. You're pretty good. You ain't shit, yo. You're like you like you're not as in you ain't shit. As in, you're not bad. You're good. You're actually good. And I was like, hey, I'm waiting so long for somebody to tell me I ain't shit. Thank you.
Josh makes a good point. I forgot that we had our own tournament arc. I forgot about 2009. So National Poetry Slam. Yeah, I did get mad at that time. So National Poetry Slam. You have teams, right? You're on a team. So I was on a team of 4 poets from Columbus. Omar, in 2008 was on a team of 4 poets or 4 or 5 poets from New Jersey, right? And so that's how we met. But in 2009, the individual World Poetry Slam was in Berkeley, California. And so Omar and I knew each other, but we weren't tight yet. And I totally forgot. Yeah, we went head to head in about in the individual World Poetry Slam, and I was not happy because I liked Omar's poems a lot, and I thought that he got shafted in his scores, and so I was like, "Hey, man, like keep rocking that shit, because like they didn't appreciate it." Now let's also be real. It was easier for me to say that because I had a good night. So like, so I wonder.
Looking down from the top.
I really wonder. Like, this is me checking myself. Would BMP exist if Omar had beat me that night? Like if Omar beat me that night, would I have been like, man, fuck this dude, man? He funny as shit. They laughing this shit. Like shit ain't funny. I'm out here doing poems about what's going on in the world, and he making people laugh. Man, after that, man. I don't know how it would have went. I don't know how it would have went. Yeah.
Yeah, Shameric's in here is like, I watched that What If. Yeah.
Totally. Yo, that's some Infinity Stones moving type shit, man. Like, who knows? But no, that was cool. Like, we actually hung out a little bit during that time in Berkeley. And then it kind of culminated when we had that bout against each other. And so yeah, we just got real cool after that. And then, you know, what was it, were we even on Facebook at that point? Was it still MySpace, or it was Facebook? Was it?
No, we were Facebook. We were off. We were on Facebook.
We were on MySpace.
It was Team Terrible Chat. Me, you, and Jason Braswell, man.
Damn, I'm old.
That's a good question. Like, would he have made the top 8 friends? Yeah.
I'd probably be number 8.
Yo,
I'd probably be number 8 or 9.
That shit ended relationships, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Like someone would be cruising by, and like I would get a text, or were we even texting? I would get a direct message, whatever the hell it was, and be like, "Yo, are we cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, we cool." It's like, you expanded to top 12, and I'm not in your top 12. I had to put my music page on there, man. Like, I didn't know, man. I needed another spot.
That stuff would ruin would continue to ruin lives if it existed today. Can you imagine, like, the social media spread of like Twitter and Instagram, but with like having to factor in top 8 all the time? Like,
oh my god,
that would be an entire sector of celebrity journalism, is people just watching people's top 8 friends.
Yeah, I mean, people watch when people unfollow each other from Instagram. So like, can you imagine?
That would be. I think
we
need to bring back the top 8.
And then people doing stuff for clout to try and get in somebody's top 8, man. Like, whoo.
Oh no.
Hard times. So anyway, yeah. So we just got cool and we connected. I think it was definitely through Facebook where we kept up. And it got to a point where we were, and also I want to say, I started traveling more. So I found myself in New York a few times, like coming to do features, doing some readings and stuff. And so we would hang out there. Omar came through Columbus, I think at least once or twice during that time, at the night that I was hosting. So we just got to be cool. And so through that, we got to be friends. And then it was like, oh, okay, we're friends. And we also are in the nerd shit, right? So like, you know, we were bouncing nerd shit off each other. And so that's just kind of where we were at. And for my kind of personal navigation through this, I had went back to school. I had not finished my undergrad at the time. So I went back to school, and I was about to graduate. I had like one more semester. And selfishly, I was like, man, am I going to keep writing when I leave, when I get out of school? Like,
it was a transition period.
It's a real, because at that point I was starting to get out of performance poetry as well, right? Like I was writing, but I wasn't performing as much. I didn't want to be on slam teams as much, that kind of a thing. And so I was like, how do I keep writing? And so I think I found myself kind of constantly underwhelmed by a lot of the coverage for like pop culture and nerd stuff, right? And just started to notice more and more. I was like, oh, well, you don't care about black people in media because you don't care, right? Like, and like this is a priority for me. And so, as Omar and I talked about this more and more, it was just like, so would it be crazy if we started a website? If we put together people that we knew that were kind of on this with us, and just like eventually that just came together, and that was in 2014.
13. The prototype started in 2013 because we were both transitioning out of Slam as an avenue to get you to do something else. You don't know what it will be when you start it, but along the lines you'll find something else, or
like college,
just keep performing, or you'll keep doing something else. Will was transitioning into grad school and whatnot. He was talking about even like maybe even teaching and whatnot, going into that. I don't know what the fuck I was. I'm just here, man. I'm fucking here. And Will was like, yo. Because he was watching an episode of Mad Men, and there's a really interesting portion of the show that happened that dealt with race, and he listened to this podcast, and this podcast was like he was waiting for them to talk about it, and they didn't talk about it, and Will was like, what the fuck, man? So then like a couple days later, he's like, yo, Omar, would it be crazy if we like, I don't know, if we wrote about the stuff that we like in like this nerd stuff? I'm like, that's not a crazy idea. It's possible, yeah, we can do that. The very next day, he's like, all right, so if I put money toward a website, would we be able to do that? And that's when I'm like, all right, when Will starts talking about the bricks and the money moving and the weight start moving, that's when I know shit's real. All right, so
everything was hypothetical like 12 hours earlier, right? 12 hours ago, everything was like hypothetical. I went to sleep. I woke up. I was like, maybe we could do this shit.
See, that's how it works, though. That's how it works. Like you're like, no, we're talking about it. It's fine, whatever. And then when you wake up and you're like, no, that's the thing.
Still on your mind. Yep.
I was like, all right. So then we had to learn HTML and shit, and then we had 9 people at the beginning, and then and that 9 grew to like we're at maybe I don't.
I mean, we
had so many people that I saw a dude cosplaying like 3 years ago. I saw a dude cosplaying as Killmonger at New York Comic Con. I was like, yo, you're a pretty motherfucker. Let me get a picture of you. He's like, all right. I also think you're my boss. Are you Omar? I was like, yeah. I want black girl problems. I was like, who the fuck is this? And that was Brandon. And I was like, well, we're all over here. So I took him to like, Will, do we know this means? Oh yeah, that's Brandon. He works with us. Like, all right, man. And there's still people we have not met. So that we started from 9, and we're at maybe like 20, 30 something, including proofreaders, editors, and streamers and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And it was really from an idea of like, can we talk about this nerd stuff the way we want to? And I think we can. We can get other like-minded people and unlike-minded people as well that aren't problematic or anything that can talk about it too and cover the things that we don't know about, like cosplay and shit like that. And it worked. It's 7 years later. It's worked out so far. You know.
Yeah. That's a trip. I mean, but I very much vibe with that, and like, Intelligame getting started was very much about like, I don't see people having discussions about the themes in the games. Like, it's cool if you thought the graphics were pretty, but I mean, but that idea of like finding a space where you recognize something is important to you, and then being able to find out that it's important to other people too. I especially when it comes to representation in Black culture, I think that's a good place. You will turn your books to page 1. Well, I mean, I guess Will and I can turn ours to page 1. I don't know anything about your copy out there, Omar.
Omar, can you just so I don't have to suffer through this all night? Can you just show the people your book? So, just so everyone knows, Omar is in New York. I am in Columbus, Ohio. Simon & Schuster is in New York. So they ship the books, the finished copies of the books. And Omar got his today. I don't get mine till tomorrow. So he gets the flex for a day because he actually has the finished copy of the book.
Look at that.
Wait, we don't.
Bang on the back. It's fancy.
Normally I don't do this on the first date, but we go.
I hate it here. I hate it here.
Man right there. Look at that man right there. I had to match Will's energy I had to match Will's energy, and the only picture I had was like, they made it pop too. I'm like, my wife did that.
Goodness. I hate it here.
I'm just there's a part of me that like looks at that and sees like I know that the black and white photo was a choice, but there's also where it looks like you're like, why'd you pull this photo from 1963 of me? And like,
yo, I love the fact that like, and I guess you can do it, but I'm gonna say it about black people. I love the fact that you could pull a black and white picture of a black person. You'd be like, man, that could have been 1964, 2018, bro. Like, I love that shit.
There, half the time I feel like the only reason I can't get away is like if my hair was as long as it was in like in college, you have no idea, no clue.
Oh man. All right, what are we reading? What are we reading?
From the top.
From the top. Oh my goodness. This is the intro.
Do not make it drop though. It is too early.
Let's get it.
Yeah, I can't promise on here.
All right. So
Omar, are yours the same pages as mine? Do you need some time to find yours?
I went back to the PS4. Don't worry. I went back.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but the 5. The 5 is there, but no, we can still go back to the 4.
So to give a little context before we get started, there's the Black Nerd Problems book is a series of essays, as Will brought up earlier, some new stuff that had never before seen except in the book, and some stuff, some favorites from the website, that kind of thing. There are essays written by each of them individually, and then there are also some sort of co-op pieces in here too. So this part here at the top, from the top, is one of these cooperative pieces.
It's our intro. If this was a rap album, what's that?
I didn't know that was the name of it. He said from the top. I was like, oh, page 1. I was like, oh, that's the name of it.
No, that's the name of it.
Okay.
Yes, of your book, Omar. Yes, that's the title on your book. So just try to imagine like back in like the late 90s rap albums, right? Where like there's the intro, there's the intro cut, which has a beat, is produced like a regular song, but it is very clearly an intro, right? So that's the vibe we were going for here. From the top. Listen, when Omar and I met on the mean streets of Madison, Wisconsin, doing the grimy shit called poetry slams back in 2008, we didn't know we would end up writing a book together. Man, I didn't even like this motherfucker stage name. True anime rivalry friendship shit, man. We slammed against each other. We watched each other get bullshit scores or win crowns. And then we started talking nerd shit. All the nerd shit.
Ooh, I've been drinking. Through nerd shit, all connections are possible. 2013, we brought you Black Nerd Problems, the website, 8 years of memes, live tweets, Game of Thrones recaps, and the hard pop culture ESPN level analysis that cyber streets needed. It all led to this black ass, nerdy ass book. Originally, we told Simon & Schuster we wanted this shit published on papyrus. We doing this shit for the old school printing press. Y'all want that old English back? Y'all want that Shakespeare back? Well, that's too damn bad, because this right here, written in Wakandan. We'll do a loose translation for those unfamiliar.
Nah, we're writing this shit like a manga. The rest of this shit you gotta read right to left, fam. I'm joking. Don't do that shit. Omar and I can't speak nothing but English and black ass English. I've been watching subbed anime for years and I couldn't speak a sentence of Japanese with the Naruto Rasengan to my head. Seriously though, what Black Nerd Problems has taught me is how wide-ranging our nerddom can be. I didn't start reading comics till 2006. I didn't start watching anime on the regular until I edited someone else's Black Nerd Problems piece. Omar been talking about Hajime no Ippo like it's his Quran or some shit, and I love him, but I still ain't seen a second of that joint. But I will defend that shit to my dying breath. Man, sports anime is okay. Me, that's cause you ain't hip to Hajime, bruh. And that's the point of this book. You may not catch every reference, every jutsu, every filler arc, but we trying to make sure you know we felt that shit.
And isn't that the heart of being a nerd? Naruto flutes come in. That feeling of excitement and passion for a show, book, or character that you fucks with, and then wanting to share that amongst friends or even strangers, hoping they feel the same thing you do. Morpheus from the Matrix voice. Isn't that worth nerding out over? Isn't that worth fighting for black nerds and nerds of color to come together and share that joy. We thought so.
Question on the eve of
it's snapping. It's silence in my snapping. I feel.
I'm sorry. Is Lawrence Fishburne in the new Matrix coming out?
If he's alive, he better be. I don't see why not.
I think the trailer like literally drops tomorrow. Like the full
really?
trailer.
Oh, I didn't even know.
I didn't know that.
Y'all didn't see the teaser?
No.
The teaser for the Matrix 4?
I saw the John Wick, Keanu Reeves Neo. Yeah.
I'm just curious. This has nothing to do with BNP. Well, Lawrence Fishburne has everything to do with BNP. But like, I'm just curious. Yeah, I don't know.
Damn. I was sitting here. I was like, well, let me go watch the trailer. No, I can't. I'm
Let me
having
go
a
watch
conversation
the trailer.
right now.
Intermission.
Yes, all right. We're
Let
gonna
me
take a
watch
quick
the
break. People are already hanging out 20 extra minutes because I'm running this on
Oh
CP
man.
time. So, one of the things that I do want to take a bit of time since we have opened the book to spend some time in it. One of the things, so I actually, this is the first time, I guess, Omar, you and I have face to face had a conversation face to face.
True.
Heard you got an issue with me, man. What's up, man?
Yo,
Heard you got
Let's
beat.
get to it, man. Come on, boy.
so
Yeah, what's up? Hajime no Ippo, talk to me.
this is referring back to page 2 of the book. All right? Let me quote this.
Hey, Josh Boykin, what's up?
You may not catch every reference, every jutsu, every filler arc, but we're trying to make sure you know we felt that shit. And I did feel that shit in the Hajime no Ippo section of this book.
Alright.
Because, so for context, folks, there's a boxing anime called Hajime no Ippo, and I've seen maybe 6 episodes of it from like way back when my buddy Scott was hooking me up with like bootleg VHS tapes that he'd recorded off of something set up that like that was how I got into anime. Was he gave me the hookup. That was how Evangelion Trigun Ippo. Yeah, I think that was it. Anyway,
I mean, that's a good starter list.
Oh,
That's a good starter list right there.
Yeah,
you get all the range.
It was real solid. But one of the things that I think is, I'll phrase it as a question because I'm the host and I'm trying to be cordial. How do you decide how much information to convey about a particular show, right? So for a lot of the stuff in here, there may be people who are excited about your opinions and want to know more, but may not actually have seen a show or whatnot, that kind of thing. How do you decide how much to talk about? Because in that in that Ippo essay, we get the whole story.
You got the whole story.
including a couple pieces. Like, if you just said, hey, spoiler alert, or like, jump over this, or whatever, I'd have been fine. But you were like, nah, here we go. This is just some basic context, and here's some mid plot. And then, I'm not going to say it, because it broke my heart.
I'm glad.
You know what it seems like? It's like Omar was like, "Hey, you want to do lunch sometime?" It's like, "Yeah, word." And so like you show up at the restaurant, and Omar's already sitting there. You sit down. It's like, "Oh, did you order already?" He's like, "Yeah, I got you water." And then Josh sits down. He's like, "So look, the whole plot of Hajime no Ippo, like, He's like, "Yo, I just thought I was coming to get some salmon for lunch, bro."
That was So, how? Why?
This stems back. I realized I get when we were first starting out in Black No Problems, I was always the guy that was spoiling things. That I had that reputation, and I saw why. Will would always be like, "Hey, did you see this?" When he like, "Did you see Matrix Reloaded?" I take that as because he's asking about it, I can now talk about all these things, and I had to realize, oh, he's just asking. That doesn't mean that I can't
just want conversation, Omar. Some of us just want connection.
Sometimes it's just nice to know, like, oh, you're interested in a thing and you're sharing that passion. That's cool.
Some of us just have a curiosity of the world, sir.
I understand. So I got into Hajime Ippo in 2010 because of Allende Russell, which I think I say in the book as well. So that was 2010. And that the shit that I'm talking about happens in maybe in 2000. I remember it was 2017 because I was in the living room of my sister's house and we were crying. I was crying about it, and she hadn't even read the manga, and she was crying about it. And my wife and my nephew were like, "What's wrong with these people? I don't understand this shit." I think come on, man. There's got to be an expiration date of time because I'm talking about the manga, sure. The anime, you would never have known that from the anime because it stopped at volume 3. The anime doesn't even scratch the surface of how deep this goes. This has been going on since 1989. In this case in particular, it's been going on since 1989. I could say the website says this is a piece on the website as well. It says spoiler alert on the website. Here, no, because it's a flow. It's a flow of something.
I feel like Omar was like, look. You saw the gun pointed and you walked into that bullet, yes, good sir.
It's been 4 years. That was 4 years ago that happened in the manga. That's 4 years ago. If you wanted to,
can I take a spin on this? I feel like, so I know for me, because I don't know, there's a couple things that I definitely talk about, spoil. I talk about, there's an essay in there where I talk about Horizon Zero Dawn. There's not plot spoilers, but it's very detailed information about the game. I think it's finding the heat of a thing, right? Finding the heat of a story or something that pulled you from it. And for me to defend Omar a little bit here, it's just I know his connection to Hajime no Ippo is the arc, right? And so it makes sense to go that full path. I think that is an example, and for me, it's just where is the heat of this thing? And sometimes it's a spoiler about where it goes, right? There's a one of the essays I thought about messing with and didn't make it into the book. One of my favorite sequences in all of gaming is in the first Last of Us, where if people recognize this, in the first Last of Us, where you play as Ellie, and then the whole sequence, how that ends, right? And so if you haven't played that, it's just one of the best back and forth sequences, and you find so much out about the characters. And the original essay, it was just a big ass spoiler. It's this is the whole thing that happens, and this is my range of emotions, right? But that's also, it was impossible to write about my emotional connection to it without talking about the story itself.
Yeah.
And so I think in the book format, on the website's different, right? On the website, anyone can venture into it. And I did think about that a little bit. Do we put spoiler alerts on some of this stuff for in the book? And here's my hope. My hope is that, because this has happened for me, my hope is that even if I get a spoiler, if I'm reading someone else's thing about a video game, about an anime, something like that, even if I get a spoiler, if it's conveyed to me with enough enthusiasm and enough conviction and everything else like that, it's still going to make me invest, right? I want to say Omar sent me a before I ever watched Naruto, he sent me one of the biggest battles, right? He was just out of context. I know you don't know who the hell these people are, but this animation is amazing, kind of thing, right? And I remember watching it, and then I forgot about it. Yeah. And then years later, I'm watching Naruto, and I was like, I've seen this before. Which is amazing. But also screw Omar, because I know how this ends, you jerk. Right? So, but I say that to say, there's definitely been times I've been spoiled on something, but one, the original content was compelling enough, and it kind of exposed me to a thing, right? It's oh, I didn't know this is pretty dope. Now I'm still gonna go check it out. I remember I'm a big Anne Rice vampire books fan. The movies have not fared as well, but the books were cool. And I read the 5th book in that series first. I read Memnock the Devil was my first book that I read of that, and I was just oh, I think I know where a lot of these characters end up, but it was so good, it made me go back.
Oh wow.
And so I still think that effect can happen even if you get spoiled on a thing. Obviously, you rather not, if possible. But I do think there's some value in that, it being hey, I'm going to give you this plot thing, but it is so good, it's still going to make you want to go back and invest from the beginning.
And I will admit that reading this essay did make me much more curious about the manga. I feel like to perhaps clue the rest of the audience in on the discussion that we're having, why don't we have you read the first bit of this essay?
The first bit of this?
The spoiler part? Or do you
No,
want
not the spoiler part.
You too.
We have to come in here, right? We're gonna cut your mic off. But yeah, if you want to do the first couple, because essentially what I appreciate about this essay is that, like, yes, we learned some of the sort of like boxing technicality stuff that's real cool, but you also do show some of the emotional tie in there too. So why don't we do if you want to start at,
Tell me where to start.
actually, why don't we start with that same day. So if you can just give a little bit of a quick recap, and then that same day we'll go to the hand-to-hand combat.
I'll start this all off of saying my dad really, really loves boxing growing up, and I never wanted to do that growing up. I wanted to do martial arts, and so it's weird. Like in my older age, I started learning boxing, and then I was like, oh, I understand. Like 20 years later, I'm like, I understand why you like it so much.
Your father's a man of science, man. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, he is.
He's like, oh, the man drives me crazy.
It's just annoying when he's right sometimes. All right, so that same day, Ippo learns the first steps to throwing a proper punch from Takamura. Ippo hits the heavy bag so hard that skin from his knuckles flies off. Takamura realizes he has power, and that his work on the fishing boat has given him the muscular build to be a serious threat as a boxer. Takamura gives Ippo a tape of Mike Tyson, explaining that Tyson's demeanor was the same as Ippo's in his youth, until he became reborn. After viewing the tape and seeing Tyson's transformation, Ippo asks the question that'll haunt him and us for years to come. What does it mean to be strong? How does it feel to be strong? Right there. That's the moment our boy Ippo gets with the shits. We then witness the trials Ippo endures to prove how serious he is about becoming a pro boxer. Now, there are so many key moments that I can't cram into this paragraph from early on in the series. All you need to know is that Ippo earns not only the right to get trained at the gym under Takamura's coach, Kamigoya Genji, he also earns respect and a rival in Miyata Ichiro. Creator Morikawa Joji is a master storyteller. I'm focusing on Ippo, but there are so many other character stories that get told as they step into the limelight. The cast is so well-rounded that you at times forget who is the main character, as Ippo's friends and opponents shine. There are a few over-the-top opponents that are evil, as opposed to being straight arrogant asses. Everyone fights for their own reasons, and we see them all, getting glimpses into the path that's brought them in front of the protagonist at the time. Morikawa is able to humanize each character and describe their fighting styles so they stand out. Fun fact, Morikawa used to be a cornerman in boxing, which explains the in-depth research and visuals he puts into the manga. Every punch and style on display by these characters is explained, and a point is made to pay homage to the real-life boxers that made them famous. I pointed this out to my father, who grew up on boxing. I told him about a character named Mashipa that utilizes Hitman fighting stance and flicker jab, made famous by Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Dad interjected excitedly. By Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Dad interjected excitedly. My father has always followed boxing. We used to watch the Friday night fights on the week on television and listen to it on the radio. It wasn't closed circuit back then, he says. Morikawa is paying respect to eras even before my father's time. He goes all the way back to the 1920s with Ippo's signature move, the Dempsey roll, which was created by Jack Dempsey. The technique consists of Ippo weaving his head in a figure-8 motion to avoid punches while simultaneously using that momentum to punch left and right angles. I love hand-to-hand combat in manga, comics, animation, and live action. What I love even more is a character that isn't saved by anything but their own strength. Morikawa emphasizes training in the series like no other I've ever seen. We spend months with Ippo during his training regimen, which always varies. Coach Kamigawa is old, experienced, and super innovative to put Ippo in the best condition for his fights. One fight may require leg strength, the next building a stronger, thicker neck to withstand punches from an opponent coming down from a higher weight class. Let me tell you, like Coach Kamigawa told Ippo, not everyone who works hard is rewarded. However, all those who succeed have worked hard. I think I'll try to just end it right there. Let me just, you don't want me to go in, but my man Ipo, man, my man, a good boy right there.
Josh, I want to ask Omar a question. How often, and I know it's kind of like I know how it hits me. How often are you watching something that's like nerd centric, reading something in the comic, and you're just like, you see your folks in it, right? Like you see a shadow of something like your father said, or like your mother said, or like people in your life reflected in like this thing that should be removed, but they show up in that way. Like, how often do you think that happens, and like, how does that resonate with you? Like what does that do for you when you're like consuming that thing?
Actually, you know what? It's really crazy you brought it up with that book, with that manga with Hajime no Ippo in particular, because I'm like, oh, it's weird because my dad loved boxing. The father in the father in the series is he was out at sea and he passed. So we see his mom, and Ippo's mother is like low key underrated, one of the best written women protagonists, like women supporting cast members. And it's just now that I realize, like, yo, my mom, I think I resonated with her so much because my mom was just like this. Like, yo, don't worry about the shit I gotta do, man. Like, do what makes you happy, do what makes you good. I'll be good here. And like seeing how like she did that to the point where it exhausted her and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, like it's a real, because you won't see it everywhere because not everybody can write like good characters or good women characters for that matter, as we know in certain series. You know what I'm saying? We love Naruto for a reason, but the women characters, you know what I mean? Give them more agency. So it depends on a writer that can really write a good, well-rounded character. But I can give an example of this book. This book where we talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I'll give an example of that manga, but like I think for me, I think it's few in between. But like because when you do see it, it's like, whoa, yeah, I like. It resonates so good when you see that special one. So for me, it's only a couple. As opposed to, I see this. Oh, this reminds me of my mom. This reminds me of my dad. Like, it's not a lot for me. It's very like, it has to hit a lot of, it has to check a lot of boxes before I'm like, ooh, this is the one right here. This is it.
That's fair. I think about that from, like, anytime there's like a fantasy series, or fantasy book, I have in the back of my head is like, would my dad mess with this, right? Because my dad is like the biggest like Lord of the Rings fan. He read the books 20 times over before the movies ever came out, and so he just knows his shit, right? He just knows his shit, and so how he judges fantasy series and the world building and the thing that they're involved, like I just have his voice in my head when I'm looking at these things. And so there's that element of like how he digested that. But then, I don't always, I think one of the reasons we always talk about like, representation mattering and diversity in media and things like that is because it is difficult for a lot of us to see ourselves portrayed in a certain way. And then there's a critique on how it's done, right? Like, we've had a wave of like a lot of black characters interjected into TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, well, like you can hire a black person to play a part, but like, was that role written for them? Right. Was that role, you know what I mean? And so I think that we have such a much more critical eye on that, right? I think in the book, in one of the essays, I think my longest essay in the book is about Disney, and
Disney two-step.
Yeah, and I talk a lot about how like the half in half out diversity approach of Disney is not a bug, it's a feature. Like there's a reason that they do it that way, and like the whole thing with like Soul, the movie Soul, and I'm sorry if I am dropping on this movie that anyone really enjoyed a ton or not, and not that I disliked it wholeheartedly, but it has some issues. But like that movie was first written without a black protagonist in mind, and so and also like two white writers put that together, and they had consultants, but you know, it wasn't written by people of color, and it wasn't written by Black people, and so I have to think a lot about how many of those things were added as aesthetics, right? It's like, oh, well, you know, it's a Black dude, so we got to have a barbershop in there, right? Like, but you know, for me watching that movie, I'm like, wow, like, sorry, you know, this is not a spoiler, but like character, you know, profiles of the movie. I'm like, wow, Joe's mother was like a single Black mom that owned a freaking tailor shop in the middle of New York, whatever, for how many years? Like, tell me her story. Tell me her story. She owned a business when not a lot of Black people were owning businesses. Like, what does she had to go through, right? And so those are the kind of things that like pop into my head. I'm actually checking out the chat, like Dirty Bag Boyfriend. Yeah, like from Onward, right? Onward with Lethal Way playing the cop. You know, like there are boxes that are checked without necessarily coloring in the whole lines, right? And so I think about that a lot. And so when it does work, it gets you freaking excited, man. It gets you really pumped up about it. And so like I'm hearing like a lot of like really good positive affirmations coming from like Shang-Chi just coming out, right? In terms of the not only Asian American but Asian experience, right? And the immigrant experience in that, right? And like the clash of cultures between growing up in America and their origins. So I think when it's done right, you can tell. I think when it's clumsy, you can tell. And deserves a lot of introspection. And so I'm just curious because, you know, like Omar, like your father shows up in a good amount of your writing. My dad shows up in my writing all the time. And I know that they have been not just our fathers, but just that as an example. I know they have been inspirations to us. But I'm always curious about where they show up and how they show up and kind of what that effect is. So.
I feel like one of the things that did resonate with me in the book was how much you were willing to disclose and talk about the emotional ties that you have to the media that you're talking about, right? So this isn't just this isn't just talking about the show and the characters themselves, but the ways that you personally relate or translate those situations into real life. I feel like, though I know we discussed a game plan beforehand, and I still do want to hit a couple of those essays. I feel like with you having brought that up, Will, it would be a shame to not read a little bit of the essay that you wrote, talking about those interactions that you had with the Game of Thrones essay.
About my father? About the I think that's
it's at
escapism?
258 on our
our
PS4 versions.
Yes.
I will flip to that. I'm gonna just tell y'all, if you want to hear how how emotional it gets, there's an audio copy of this book. They let us ad lib a few lines, and we both took some liberties.
So really? Were there
a little bit? Yeah. They wouldn't let us go crazy with it. But
we both took some, like, we're gonna do this now because this is where we're at. So get that audio version if you you want to hear how deep it gets.
I think
all right.
I think there we go. Is it on? Oh, okay.
The book should be on e-readers. It should definitely be on e-readers. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay, yeah. I'll find a good stopping place, but I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah, that sounds great.
The essay is called "On Hope, Escapism, and Attrition Discussed Between Black Men." My father doesn't like Game of Thrones. Of course, I knew he wouldn't when he stood in my home and asked to borrow the first season, but I handed him, spoilers, Ned Stark's yet-to-be-severed head in Blu-ray form anyway. As alike as my father and I am, I know his tolerance for violence, gore, and all-out debauchery is a lot lower than mine. And yet, He too had heard about the phenomenon that was Thrones and thought he should at least see what the hype was. My father is an Omega level nerd, so maybe there was some street cred to be lost if he didn't at least try to watch it. By the time the season 4 of Thrones had ended, coming off arguably its best season so far, my father came back to me with season 1 in hand. Me, you want season 2? My pops. Nope, I'm good. Apparently, my father saw the future and didn't want to be disappointed by the end of the run. Still, I spent a lot of time bolstering my Game of Thrones IQ, and that means my overall knowledge base of Thrones compares to about 30% of what my father knows about Lord of the Rings history. To be fair, the man has been reading, ingesting, reciting, rinse and repeating the books, lore, and movies for longer than I have been alive. So, you shouldn't feel sorry for my nerd inferiority to him. But for people my age, Lord of the Rings and Thrones share a universe, if not the same universe. The fantasy of one of the big the fantasy and lore, the humans trying to overcome old evil is all familiar. But one of the big thematic differences is where Tolkien created a world very independent and unattached to a world we could familiarize with. Martin built his world off of one of the most brutal and barbaric time periods within the last 1500 years. My father was born in 1951, which means he was a teenager during one of several explosive times to be black in America. My father never entered the military, even though his older brother went to Vietnam, but that doesn't mean that my father doesn't have some war stories to share, but he doesn't enjoy sharing those. He would rather talk about the Silmarillion. When I was 17, I was hanging out with a group of friends from high school. We ended up at a house party with a lot of music, sweat, and liquor. I don't drink alcohol, never did. Not much moral high ground to it, probably just too much of a control freak to give over that dominion to something else. Well, the party got busted up. Maybe 10 out of the 40 people there were legally allowed to drink. And a lot of us spent the next hour sitting on the curb while the cops decided what to do with us. Two things stood out as I sat there in the grass bathed in the still flashing lights of the police cruiser. How the hell did I end up being the only black kid at the party? And why the hell had I constructed a social circle that allowed for the possibility that I ended up being as the only black person at the party? I didn't even give much thought to the fact that I was the only person that spent any time handcuffed that night, or that all the cops didn't believe I hadn't drunk anything and wouldn't let me drive my mother's car home while many of my friends did. My father, though, he considered all of this, and he was livid. Ultimately, his lecture to me included responsibility and awareness, but it ended with, if you think you're special out here, with all these white people, you'll be real special if you get killed out here too. At the time, I didn't get it. It took it as some hyperbolic raving from my out-of-touch parent. But there were a lot of things I didn't get back then. I'll stop there.
Yep.
Man.
And if we haven't all had that conversation, like one way or another, like if you think they're a big deal, you think it's it's that consciousness that you just carry in everywhere, you know, and especially like I live out here in Portland, so it's not uncommon for me to be the only. Actually, my friend Odell was in town. He'd come down from PAX. He was up in Seattle, and he had a couple friends with him, and they came in from Texas. And the four of us black folks show up at this food cart pod, and yeah, we were it. Like, I mean, like, you know,
that was it.
Yeah, and it's just something you're always thinking about.
And I think about this and it's definitely expanding, but I think in nerd circles, right, and why this was like an important thing for Omar and I, whether it was the website or the book, is that, you know, and I think Omar, maybe I know Omar, you say this frequently. I don't know if you wrote this in the book or not. I can't remember word for word, but like, you know, like we're a subculture of a subculture, right? So like, you know, we're nerds. So, but nerd culture is inside of pop culture. And then once you have already shrunk that circle, then it's like, but you're also black. So it's like, so you know, I feel like, you know, so many of us that have been doing this for a while, and by doing this I mean, you know, indulging in pop culture and nerds shit and stuff like that. We're kind of used to being somewhat isolated, or at least, you know, we see someone that looks like us and we're like, holy shit, I need to know who you are. right? Right? Like, first I'll identify the exits and then I'm going to get your name, right? And so I feel like there's always that sense. And the thing that was tough for my father is, I think my father just kind of recognized a lot of those things early, right? And my father, you know, my father like saw real segregation shit. My father saw, he saw, you know, dare I say, realer shit than I did in that aspect, right? Or at least he was supposed to. I mean, they're trying to bring so much shit back.
Yeah.
But so I think my father saw, you know, there are a lot of things, and I'm kind of somewhat going through this with my daughter a little bit right now, where it's like, I see her gravitating towards things she likes, and also recognizing that, like, wow, there's not a lot of black people in those spaces. And my father played baseball, right? My father played baseball. He played sports in general, but he played baseball, and he was also a country boy. And so, like, my dad just, like, he just never was finding black folks in his circles, right? Like, he went and got his master's degree. You already know what that means in the 60s and 70s, right? Also, you know, like a little bit of trivia, like my dad was on campus at Kent State getting his master's degree, like right after the shootings. And so, like, my dad just remembers like thinking, oh, do I still want to be here on campus and things like that? And then my dad like constantly kind of getting like questioned and shook down and just like aggressive. People were aggressive towards my father, not because he was involved with anything, or not because even black people were at the center of that protest, but like he was other, right? And like no one trusts other in these heightened times. So I think my father, and like hopefully what comes through in the rest of that essay is that like he just recognized that like I was in a space of isolation and how dangerous that can be, and just being worried about me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There are, I think for a lot of readers who pick up the book, you know, especially kind of reflecting on the ways that I think media consciousness has changed a bit over the past year. There are a number of folks who are paying attention to black perspectives that maybe weren't before last year. I think some of those stories are going to come off as not surprising, alarming, but they really are just sort of the nature of the lives that our parents had to go through, and in so many ways the lives that we go through then as an extension.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there are, you know, I've you know, running Intelligame kind of solo. You know, I was working pretty closely and have been with Jenny. Shout out to Kim Chica out there. You know, what has it meant to create you know, a community within that subculture of a subculture, right? Like the site's identity is about black nerd problems and finding people who are you know, who are black or adjacent, or, you know, accepted into the fold otherwise. What
No,
how what how has that helped you? How has that provided you space, opportunity for growth, reflection, or has, you know, have there been places where it's drummed up other tensions? What has that been like?
Omar, you got something for that?
I was gonna say, I saw
Really
both
big-ass
people with the
question, man. I
simultaneous
don't
head
know.
nod.
I wouldn't say any other tensions, but I mean I just feel like we chose right. We got a group of people that we knew like could cover all the bases of things as well. We have, I mean, but we also have folks that don't identify as black. They're Asian, and they write for the site as well. But like it wasn't like, all right, well, they you don't have a problem writing for black people problems, and it's all fine. And like they bring their own thing to the table as well, and they talk about this is a site where you can talk about the Asian culture and representation as well. We also have actually made a point because at one point we had too many. We saw we had way too many men, and we were like many men. We realized like no, like this. I don't think this is why we want to roll. So then there was a good moment where we're like actually a good couple of years. We're like we're not gonna take any more men. It was just women or queer identifying men that we taken in, and it was a lot of being notified of that as well. Yeah, I feel Will always has like the better like the better the better like the better speech for this. I'm like, hey man, shit's real out here. I'm like, oh, these are. I'll be trying my best when I throw it over to Will. Like,
no, you're good, man. You're good. I think that when. You know, and this is not like it, you know, we're not always going to be 100% right on this, but I think Omar and I was just kind of knew our limitations, right? Like, there's some things I know that I can just write the hell out of or talk to pretty specifically, but I knew, you know, like Omar and I, we could have just did a 2-person blog and it could have been fun and maybe it still would have taken off, but like I don't think that we were interested in that, right? Like we were just like, what would it look like if we just brought in a bunch of different voices, right? And I think that was the thing that kind of interested us. Like that was the thing that excited me, at least, about having just more than our voices on the track, so to speak. And you know, once we were like a few months in, and you know, the site's starting to spread a little further, and you know, more people are starting to see it, and then to the point where we started getting hit up by people like, hey, I would like to write for you, or can I send this piece to you, kind of a thing. I think it's also the nature of our very patriarchal society that like most of the people that hit us up to write were men, right? And so like I think we took on a few good peoples, and then we were like, okay, so wait, we got a lot of dudes here, right? And so like, can we course correct that? Can we make a shift? Because Omar and I, we just constantly talk about this, and I think we were more a bigger priority for us once we saw what was out there. What we saw, like people coming in and writing their shit and writing shit that Omar and I could not, right? Writing shit that Omar and I would never think about, or just were not equipped to do. Once we saw what was possible, it was like, okay, well, let's break this shit wide open, right? Like, let's really try to expand it beyond what our original scope was. And in that moment, it meant we needed more women identified voices. We needed more queer voices. We needed folks that were outside Omar and I. We really did. Because we can be diverse from the mainstream, but if we're not diverse within ourselves, then we're just talking to each other, right? And so I think what the experience taught me, I'll be the first to admit that like when we started this, it was like, okay, we're gonna write some stuff, it's gonna be cool, we're gonna put it on the internet, people gonna share it,
right?
Rinse, repeat. We write some new shit, same thing, right? I didn't really picture that we would grow a community that found a safe haven with us. Like I just don't know why I didn't compute that as a part of the equation.
Part of the idea. That wasn't the idea.
It wasn't, and I'm glad we stumbled into that, and then we wanted to embrace that, right? And so when people started hitting us up and being like, hey, something's going down and the first place I go to is Black Nerd Problems because I need to hear what their perspective is. Like that's a responsibility, right? Right? Like that's some responsibility. It's like, oh, well, shit, I guess we better keep dropping the hot shit. Like I don't know what else to say to that, right? Like I guess now there's a pressure where it's just like we weren't just writing, stuff for us to laugh at or us to marvel at or just some shit to get off our chest. We realized that we were providing a place that felt safe for people to share some perspectives, hear some perspectives that mirrored theirs. And that was a cool thing. That was a cool thing. That was a byproduct of us, just getting larger that I didn't account for. primarily that was good. And it also means motherfuckers paying attention. You can't be out here wilding, man. Like you can't be out here, we had a couple times where someone would write an article and they're like criticizing something really hard, but maybe they weren't completely informed. And it's just like, Twitter's forever, man. I used to wake up. I used to wake up every morning like, man, like I check Twitter. It's like, is BNP being dragged today? No. Cool. All right, cool. Go on with the rest of my day, right? Like just really trying to make sure we wasn't out here acting foolish in these streets, right? Because it only takes one thing, either blowing up or it's controversial or whatever the case may be, to be like, oh wow, okay, people are paying attention. Right. It's crazy when it starts off as something that 15, 20 people, the same 15, 20 people, 30 people are sharing the thing, but then something blows up, which is nothing ever blows up and it's like 100% positive, right? Like it could be 98, but they're going to be somebody be like, well, actually, motherfuckers, right? And you're just like, all
somebody
right,
came in and was like, I didn't even like Steve from Blue's Clues. I need to hear from him.
Right. Like, I just want to give him the Westworld. I want to give him the Westworld line, like, bro, maybe the maze wasn't meant for you. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like, yeah, but that was the, I guess, like one of the the friction and the somewhat consequence that you kind of alluded to is that like as you get bigger, as people more, people are paying attention. That's that's mostly a good thing, but it also checks you. Right? Like it also checks you like, okay. And it doesn't mean you change what you do. It just means you're not careless. It just means that you are intentional, right?
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's I really, I guess, resonate with a lot of the idea of like building that community unintentionally. Here within Intelligame, there are a lot of folks who come together and found a space to find each other, but but it does come with a lot of additional unplanned pressure and situations. It is I will say Chimeric Notion did call out plug in the Discord for folks who might want to find some of that community you were talking about. There is a Black Nerd Problems Discord, which I'm hoping Chim might be able to post a link to for folks in the chat.
Word.
Yeah.
We silly in there. We have fun. We have fun in there. We make a joke about like the Discord really did start because Chimeric Notion and I wanted to play Destiny more. We were like trying to find people to raid with.
I wish y'all had
the game. I mean, Chimeric Notion is going to very much disagree. I feel like he's got 7 tattoos of Destiny, but like the game is a plague. It plagues us. But like we really did. Like I was like, man, I should just start a Discord. Like because we're trying to get more people organized to play more raids, right? And like what ended up happening is that became like this big ass hub where it's like a real ass community right now because a few people that like have some stature joined the Discord and like, hey, I found a place that's cool, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, like I'm creating like 17 channels a day to try to like compensate for everyone's interest. And I was like, yo, we were just playing Destiny, man. I was just trying to organize a raid once a week. Like that's how this started.
Too big. Have you did you no, you don't have like a Black Nerd Problems clan. I think you got your own folks that you generally run with. Have you thought about trying to
No, we started as the Black Nerd Problems clan.
Oh. Okay.
We started as the Black Nerd Problems clan, and as that started to expand for the people we were playing with. And I think this is actually like a pretty typical story for, Destiny clans and stuff like that. I had a clan, Chimeric Notion had a clan, and like those clans individually had a hard time as they say, keeping the hours. Yep. Okay, like we just and so we were like, let's combine them. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the reasons I had trepidation about that was because is Black No Problems, right? And like me not wanting to necessarily give up that clan name. There was I gotta tell this story. So there's a dude I know in real life, played Destiny for a while. Good friend, very white. And he was like, "Can I join the clan?" And I was like, "So I feel like I gotta give you a questionnaire." Because, and I only say that because, like, you know, back in Destiny 1, you know, it would say Black No Problems as our clan name.
Mm-hmm.
And like we roll in with 6 people to play competitive, play Iron Banner, and we just stomp some team, right?
Oh boy.
Yo, man, the messages afterwards, I'm getting called every N-word in the book and all this other shit, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And so the conversation I had to have with this person, I was like, hey, so like, I need you to know that this is the thing that happens. And I'm telling you this, and yes, it's going to disturb you. It's going to hit you a different way than it's going to hit me, obviously. But, you know, if you are the person I think you are, it should disturb you, right? If you get one of these messages. But I also need you to know, I don't want you out there fighting
right,
with the BNP banner, right? Like, do not be getting into arguments with folks on behalf of Black No Problems, right? And so it was like this weird conversation I kind of had to have with them. And like, that's not something I ever would have pictured I would have needed to do. But it is, you know, I guess a segue here about what we do in these spaces, right? What we do as a collection of marginalized folks in spaces that are predominantly white spaces, and how we have to carry ourselves, right? And I think at the essence that's like where this book comes from, right? It comes from reminding people that we're here, right? Reminding people that we have interest in these things. And if we weren't in spaces that were, one, not designed for us, and two, have not adapted well to us, right? Then we wouldn't be talking about it. Then it wouldn't be a topic of conversation. And I really think that's just an important thing to hold on to, of like why we do what we do. Because we are still in these spaces that were not built for us, and that are not still prepared to always house us, keep us. Like literally last week we had the day off of Twitch, right? Which speaks to, this is not a space still that's not adapted to what we need for safety, what we need for preservation, right? And that's where a lot of our commentary comes from. And I think that is in the book quite frequently, of like, hey, we need to remind y'all that we're here, right? And I think that comes through in the book a lot.
Yeah, I think. No, I don't need to supplement that. You already took care of it just fine. But I do think it's interesting bringing in that sort of that discussion of, hey, I need to provide you some context to this part of the world you're going to be exposed to. You know, there's a sort of inoculation is a heavy term given the state of the world. But there is a sort of, you know, when we're lucky enough to survive these situations, there's a way to, you know, whatever your sort of mechanism is for figuring out how to navigate that world. Yeah, it'd sure be surprising if you know, you're a random white person jumping into Destiny and somebody else all of a sudden sending you those DMs. Yeah, that's different.
It was wild, man. We just used to, and it was funny because it was just a different time, but like we would just roll through and just be having a good time and yucking it up. And then someone was like, yeah, I just got a DM. I know what that is already. Right. And one of the reasons, like, again, this speaks to one of the reasons that like I was so steadfast in creating a clan and creating a community of people that I could be playing Destiny with, is because I was tired of doing LFGs. And I'm sorry if some of this language is going to be disturbing to y'all. I was tired of doing LFGs, right? Which, for those that don't know, is looking for group. You're just like joining random people on the internet, trying to get through a raid. And like, some 16-year-old kid in California is like, you know what I'm saying, nigga? Like, da 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 da. And I was like, man, your name is like you are Nathaniel Bridgewater, man. Like,
Nathaniel Bridgewater.
Stop talking about my ancestors like this, right? Like, I just got tired of that. Like, and like no exaggeration. It was like every damn one. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so that's like that's like, you know, a calling call for BNP. It's just like, you know, I need to be able to find a space where like I can vibe with my people, and then that helps arm me to go out to the rest of the world, right? Like that helps arm me to be like, all right, I'm ready to reintegrate now. But like when I need to like recharge, I fall back on my peoples. Yeah. And I just do. And I wish it didn't have to be that way, but that's how we survive, man. It's just how we survive. So
there is you will turn your books to page 53. The reason I say this is because like that idea of finding a space. So I to provide a little personal context, you know, I went to school in majority white classes, you know, gifted and talented programs or whatever, all these different spaces that meant that I have spent a majority of my life with a majority of white people in white spaces. And one of the things that was really restorative to me about reading this book was that it gave me an opportunity to immerse myself in a black space, even from here. You know, I guess that was reading Rainbow's message the whole time. And so one of the
justice for LeVar.
Yeah,
justice
right.
For LeVar.
And so one of the things that is still really exciting to me about this is how frequently there isn't sort of a, well, how do we edit our language and change the way that we present this piece because we know white people will be reading it. It still very much is your book, your perspective, your language, especially when you're engaging with each other, which is why Two Dope Boys in a comic book, the superhero fade heard around the multiverse. That was solid.
Is that the first Two Dope Boys we did, Omar?
I think wait, you mean not ever? You mean ever?
It might have been.
No. I don't think it was the first one ever. No. If anything, Hawkeye would have been the first one. Hawkeye might have been the first one ever.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
I know it was the early one. Okay, you said that was page 50. Well, for me, it's page 53. I don't know what it looks like. King James version, but
right.
I'm gonna check if we separate
new international.
Are we not equal? In the final? We're not equal in the final.
Josh and I out here with the Gideons that you find in every motel room. Oh God. I feel like, oh man, there's something I was gonna say, but I lost it. I very much, here's the thing. I hope everyone gets the book, right? I hope everyone that is able gets the book. You know, buy the book. Listen. If you got to get the book by some other means, if you just need to enjoy the book, I ain't gonna tell nobody. You know what I'm saying? You ain't. I never said shit. But any rate, I mean, look, we all bootleg some shit before. I'd be hypocritical. Okay, so just don't sell my shit. That's all I'm asking. But you know, so I want everyone to enjoy the book. But like, we're gonna read just some crazy shit in a second. But like, I imagine like if you are not of our grouping, our diaspora, whatever, right? Whatever we are reading that feels alien to you. I just want you to imagine that like sometimes you got to catch the train while it's moving, right? Like we ain't gonna slow down, ain't no pit stops, man. Like this shit goes from Detroit to New York, no stops in between, right? Like so if you in Pittsburgh, like you know what I'm saying, you gotta jump onto the train. So yeah, so Omar, let's head it off. I think Omar, we kind of had to do this. We did this for the audio recording. So I'll read the first paragraph. You read the second, then we can pick up on our parts.
Okay.
That sound good? Which means you got to read the title.
Okay. Two dope boys in a comic book. The superhero fade heard around the multiverse.
Before Chadwick Boseman made box office waves as the live-action Black Panther in February 2018, writer Jonathan Hickman's Avengers number 40 dropped on January 14th, 2015, showing T'Challa, the Black Panther, making big power moves. All you need to know to start with is T'Challa has had beef with Namor the Submariner, one of Marvel's on-again, off-again anti-heroes, ever since he flooded Wakanda. T'Challa had to put his grievances aside in order to work with Namor. He reminded Namor that their beef was tabled for now. However, quote, "Every breath you take is mercy from me." In Avengers number 40, T'Challa kicks over the table and makes good on his promise as he draws out the blade his father had bestowed upon him and places it right where it belongs, 3 feet deep into Namor's chest cavity.
Which brings us to our conversation where neither of us could stop talking about the Avengers on Avengers crime in these Marvel streets. We decided to document our conversation in order to show how exciting comic books and great storytelling can be.
Off the top, let us pay our respects and pour out some salt water for the ankle-winged super V-neck king of the Atlantic.
Aquaman said the funeral arrangements for Namor will be held at Joe's Crab Shack on 4th Avenue and Smith Street. BYOB, bring your own butter.
So let's back up, because the fan been waiting for this shit since Namor gave the greatest city on Earth the Noah ultimatum in Avengers vs. X-Men. People been waiting on him to catch those bars like Walking Dead fans were wishing Walker outbreaks on Andrea.
Namor been too comfortable in Marvel post-fuckboy acts. He then proceeded to have Wakanda attacked again. His Atlantean/white privilege was showing its whole ass. Meanwhile, T'Challa was listening to Ghost of Christopher Wallace as his dad told him, "You best clap that boy."
We gotta give the Lord and Savior Jonathan Hickman some credit. Now, this is before Jonathan Hickman even wrote X-Men, which is like one of the just ridiculous shit. The God told us 2 years ago in issue number 2 of New Avengers this shit was coming. This was his Black Dynamite, I threw that shit before I walked in the room moment.
I'm wondering how he proposed this to Marvel. Hickman, so you know your boy Namor, one of your oldest characters, arguably the first mutant. Yeah, him. T'Challa's gonna make him bait for Shark Week in this run. Marvel, you can't do Hickman but I did. And I will.
I really hope that 20 minutes before the Marvel movie announcements that there was one called the Atlantean King and Hickman picked up a phone, dialed a number like, "Hey, yeah, it's Jonathan. No, don't worry about the greeting. You didn't know it was me. Anyways, the Namor movie, yeah, well, you might want to pull that one. You can hit at that shit later, but I got other plans. I know you got graphics already and a date. I'm just telling you, it ain't gonna happen."
Sorry, I get choked up thinking about this. Here's the thing about this, too. Who hates that it had to be Namor? For real. Who hates that it had to be him? No one, boo-boo. Not one body.
Nah, I mean, he had one of the hardest moments in this run when he stood up as a representative of our Earth 616 and told them heroes of Earth 429001. That's an actual Earth, by the way. I did not make that up. This is not random numbers that I just spit out in the comic. It is Earth 429001. It sounds like an 800 number, right? Okay, anyway. It was the time to pass the sticks. But who out there rocking Namor was right t-shirts today?
Namor is going to be remembered entirely for how he died for however long that is. He always said he did what he did what had to be done, which may be true. That shit caught up with him.
Yeah, let's get into what actually happened in Avengers number 40 one time before Namor got a belly full of that sleepy time tea. How dope was the passing back and forth of the King's Blade? I appreciate Hickman sticking to Chekhov's gun theory, where if you show a King's Blade in the first act, you gotta jam it into a motherfucker and push him off a platform down to an exploding Earth in the third.
The play on the phrase that kept being repeated, "It's a blade for a king." I kept thinking as in possession, but in actuality it could be interpreted as a weapon for killing a king to crank that regicide.
Jaime Lannister, favorite son of Wakanda, though Shuri, don't play that shit.
We never get to see it, but I wish we saw the scene with T'Challa explaining this plan to Black Bolt and Black Bolt agreeing. Black Bolt arrived with T'Challa as part of the game plan as well, so this had to be in play for dumb long.
Yo, when Black Bolt jumped on the track, that was Kendrick walking into the street on the nostalgia video with Pusha T. Black Bolt anchored the record like Andre 3000 circa 2013. Could be 2021.
Right.
You heard that Kanye track. Just saying. I'm sorry the book is outdated. My bad.
Black Bolt been waiting to put Namor in his place. He hit him with the Mariah Carey. Then looked at T'Challa like, "Hey man, what you waiting on? We got to go."
Black Bolt hit Namor with that Aretha and then bounced knowing Maximus was on the planet too? Or did he? Black Bolt was cool with Merc and his brother? I don't know. I guess we don't know what went down when Cable came in 8 months ago and said, "Fuck your couch," but still. When the Cabal came in 8 months ago, he just put his kin on the exploding Summer Jam screen.
We've seen murder happen throughout Marvel, but I can't recall one where we've seen a hero. Merkin, another hero, both of whom are Avengers, no less. You know Steve Rogers is going to say some American judicial ass shit to T'Challa on this.
We'll get this one.
T'Challa. Okay, and T'Challa gonna tell Steve to kiss his kingly black ass. Wakanda figured out how to disable guns years ago. You think T'Challa can't figure out how to deactivate the nutrients in Roger's Metamucil? Shit. Steve's old ass better have a Coke, an EKG, and a smile, and shut the fuck up.
Like, not even, again, like, the vast majority of people who read this book will not know either of you personally. I, only knowing half the conversation personally before this, was still just like, I'm thrilled. And it's wild and exciting that you have the opportunity to put not just, again, this isn't just straight comic book analysis. You got, little pieces of rap in there and just like places where you get to feel your own comfort, right? You get to, you're like, this is a space that I'm going to make my space, which is incredible. We usually take, they'd be like, oh, we'll take some break from some book stuff. But there's an essay that I want to plug in here because there was a question I wanted to ask earlier. Or I guess it came up a little bit where you're talking about some of the real world impacts of the work that you've done, right? And the community that you're building. And though I know Will and spent a lot of time with Will, there was a part of me that felt like I got to know a piece of Omar in this essay that I would love for you to spend some time with. The Craig of the Creek essay. Man, like I was
so good.
Not ready.
It's so good.
It is wow. I am to be able to again learn so much about you through your writing, I think is really cool. Let me, because I know it's a bit of a longer essay, but for good reason. I don't know. Is there a piece that you feel like sticks out to you that kind of resonates with you that you would want to read there? Because otherwise,
I mean, Craig of the Creek is my favorite. I think this is when we talk about greatest of all times, you got to say it in the context of this is the GOAT for this time frame to this time frame. It's impossible to last for all time frame, but no, this is their era. They had this chunk of time. For me, Craig of the Creek is like it is the GOAT cartoon, and you don't get this cartoon without Steven Universe, Adventure Time, and all these other ones doing the work before it. However, to me, this is the cartoon I've been waiting. I'm 36. This is the cartoon I've been waiting like 30, 20 years, whatever, to see. Like this is the shit right here. Like this is what I've been waiting for, and it took all those other cartoons to build it to this right here. So which is to say, I'll read whatever. Just tell me where to fucking start, and I'll read this shit. I don't give a fuck. This is my shit. Like I love this. And while you're finding where you want to read it, I'll show you because we have pictures in the book.
Yeah, so. I was gonna say, look at that. Like there's even.
O'Neal Jones did this.
Really?
So
yeah, I need to plug O'Neal Jones real quick. She's just incredible. She's just incredible. Like there's some definite pictures. And so there's 10 illustrations in the book that we wanted to match up with essays. And there's definitely times where Omar and I we're just like thinking which essays we wanted to see which one she could do sketches of. And I'm like, okay, but that shit sound crazy. Omar's like, shoulder shrug. I'm like, all right, like we'll just like she'll just be like, okay, this is dumb, like whatever. And we send it to her, and she's like, oh, okay, so you want to do it like this? And we're like, all right, bet, like you about this shit, you about this shit. And some of the illustrations I think are hilarious. If you know the references to them. But yeah, just so you know, there's some illustrations in the book as well that are pretty good.
I almost started talking while I had the stream on mute. That would have been real confusing to the audience. If you want to, I would say 118.
118.
And yeah, talking about the show handles things for the point of view of kids brilliantly, and probably going down the probably actually to the middle of 120, and then if you want to summer, I don't even know if I want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's all right.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
When it happened, I didn't say I'll explain afterwards.
Yes, please.
All right, so we're talking about Craig of the Creek, one of the illest shows on the illest show on Cartoon Network. One of the main writers, one of the main storyboard editors is Jeff Trammell. And love that man. So the show handles things for the point of view of kids brilliantly. A game of Foursquare on the blacktop feels like an anime battle to the kids playing. We see the kids doing Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan type power-ups, which we witness visually through their eyes. Craig of the Creek has numerous homages to this, like this to an anime and other genres of pop culture non-stop each episode, but that ain't even half the thrill. It tackles and addresses real world shit too. You know how people say, well, how am I supposed to explain gay people to my kid? Well, Craig of the Creek did that shit simple as fuck. In the Ferret Quest episode, everyone splits up to catch a ferret. Craig makes a female ferret sock puppet to lure the real ferret in. JP says, but what if he crushes on guy ferrets? They then create a male ferret sock puppet with a six-pack, and when the ferret still doesn't show up, they realize they should represent all ferrets. They then create various sock puppet ferrets. Boom, simple as fucking that. We see kids on the show introduce themselves and others with their preferred pronouns, and hear certain characters referred to as they, them. They literally touch so many bases with this show. I tune in to see what they could possibly do this time around. How much better can this show truly get from here? Which brings me to the Under the Overpass episode, where Craig, Kelsey, JP, and Kit, who runs the trading tree store, are in a raft, exploring the uncharted part of their creek that flows into the next town over, Hurkleton Mills, to get honeysuckle flowers for Kit's store. When they return under the overpass that the creek flows through, this black kid with long locks and a poncho gets the drop on him. Yo, this kid takes out a bow and proceeds to get fucking busy. It doesn't say fucking busy, but he proceeded to get fucking busy. We see Kelsey, the fighting warrior of the group, swinging her sword to knock the arrows back while in the raft, and she gets grazed across the face with an arrow, and we see a magenta mark on her cheek. Kelsey sniffs it and says, sent a marker. He's tracking us. That shit killed me. Of course, a kid ain't gonna be shooting actual arrows, so he made kid-friendly trick arrows. The archer kid then sinks their raft with an arrow that was a bundle of pencils and warns them to never return to the overpass. I tell you, I ran that whole scene back repeatedly for weeks. I was amazed because I fucking love archery. The first time I held a bow and arrow was in a day camp in 4th grade. I fell in love with it instantly. Look, I'm the guy making the case that Hawkeye deserves his spot on the Avengers. That's how hard I go for archery. It's my favorite physical hobby to do. Whenever I'm visiting friends or going overseas, my favorite thing to do is find an archery range and just shoot arrows. I like seeing the different stances and forms instructors use. I was in South Africa at an archery range, learning from an instructor who said the best way to shoot was to have a bow in front of you and pull the drawstring back till it touches the tip of your nose and then shoot. This is my shit, man. Archery feels, and even though archery feels and even looks like it requires such grace and finesse, I never imagined I'd get to see a black cartoon character that was nasty as fuck with a bow. A little black boy that loves archery. It's such an obscure, underrated skill, right? Plus, I ain't never seen a black archer on television before. We later find out his name is the Green Poncho, which is an homage to DC's Archer-themed superhero Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. Man, I sat ready to find out more about this kid week in and week out, waiting for him to show up. This shit took me back to Saturday morning cartoons, hoping to see this dope-ass character and his story again. My favorite part of watching Craig the Creep became waiting for the Green Poncho to appear in episodes and learning more about his storyline involving the kids from the other side of the creek. Remember how I said there's a kid for everyone on the show? I realized right the fuck there that Green Poncho is my kid. He's an archer on his vigilante shit. That's again clearly a nod to the Archer superhero Green Arrow and even Hawkeye from Marvel Comics. Watching the show, I never realized we hadn't seen a kid that runs around identifying as a superhero / vigilante type. I instantly remembered a photo my mom took of me jumping around the house in Superman underwear, tying a towel around my neck as a cape. That's what made me instantly relate to Green Poncho. I too was that young kid, still laying in my head, pretending to be a vigilante. We're gonna end it right there because we're getting more embarrassing shit. So I wrote about I wrote a review, I don't even read my review. I wrote some shit that I fucked with the show Green Poncho, the show Craig the Creek and how they represent for kids and stuff like that. It's the Green Poncho show to me. And then I fuck with this kid, Omar, Green Poncho, who's this kid. And so you only know him as an Archer kid, then you know him as Green Poncho. And then later on, you come to find out that he has, you've come to find out his real name when you meet, one of his old nemesis. And Craig is trying to fit Craig, their main character. Who the fuck, we don't know anything. I don't know anything about you, man. And so they meet the old nemesis, and the old nemesis, knocks Craig out the way. And she says, it's not too late to come back to us, Omar. And then Craig's like, Omar? And meanwhile, I'm watching with my wife, got my name? What the fuck? And it was said in a certain way. I'm like, nah, this guy. So we get to his whole backstory and shit like that. And so I hit up Jeff Jamel, who's the head storyboard dude. I'm like, hey, was that his name from because it 2019 or 2018? I think I hit him up or we're talking about it. I was like, was that it? Did y'all have that name planned from years ago from the beginning? He said, oh no, that was for you. He's like, I told you. He sent me a screenshot and he's like, I told you we were gonna be doing stuff you would be talking to your grandkids about, man. And he's like that was maybe 2019. This happened maybe a year or 2 years later. I was like, oh shit! So I got a cartoon character named after me who's played who has the hardest working man in anime, Zeno Robinson, doing his voice acting.
On his voice.
So yeah. So it's dope. So I was like, oh shit! So I was waiting for my friends to see it. So I'm like, oh, Will, have you seen this episode? No, I haven't seen it. Oh yeah, everybody's like, that episode. I was like,
yo,
right.
anyone knows me knows my backlog is notorious, right? So Omar's asking me every week, hey man, have you watched Craig and Creek? I was like, motherfucker, you know I'm not caught up. Why you keep asking me this shit? I ain't watched this shit in 2 months. I was like, I'm going to, because the shit's dope. He's like, all right, man. He's increasingly getting mad at me because I'm not watching this. I'm like, why is this nigga so irritable about me watching Craig and the Creek? What is going on? He had to break down and tell me. He's like, all right, man, since you ain't gonna watch it. I'm just like,
Jesus. Oh shit, that's crazy. No, don't tell me that shit's crazy. You could have seen it. The worst my friends that saw it.
I felt like such a bad friend. Man.
Yeah, because I have friends like Jordan. Jordan, who's in the chat, Jordan started, oh yeah, I saw that was a dope episode. I'm like, all right, man, nobody. This is why there's the trouble of being the youngest. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm like, all right, man, all right. Nobody, all right. I ain't subtle with shit.
This is so dope, though, man. It's so dope. I truly believe. Also, Omar and I have this thing where I tell him this all the time. That like, my fans, people that are fans of my work, will be like, "Hey, Will, like I'm really digging your stuff. Like it inspired me to do, to do this." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you, man. Omar's fans be like, "Who do I need to kill to preserve your life force for the next millennium?"
That's how it works, right?
Like Omar's people that are fans of Omar will put the blood sacrament on the wall for this dude, man. And people that are fans of me will be like, "Hey, really love that essay you did. It kind of made me think about this idea. Like, I might want to mess with that." And I'm like, "All right, cool, man." Like, so like that's the difference in our fandoms, right?
That's wild. I frequently, because first off, thank you for sharing that, and congratulations too. Like that's, I mean, like I guess it's not like you like won a contest or something, but like, but it's still really cool. I feel like there are, I feel like I have this sense of like sort of the different ways that your voices come across, right? So like I'm definitely I hear notes of slam poetry and but like right, just a hint of but like so it's cool to hear that in the delivery, which I guess does underscore the audiobook version, which I'll scroll up and find the link to post in the chat again for folks who want to pick that up. But I also appreciate that your voice very much comes across in your writing as well. The place where, for instance, I was not as prepared, say, for Will's perhaps more slam poetry-esque voice. I was in the essay about Simba, because how are you gonna come out?
I was waiting.
How are you gonna come out and take shots at? He just can't wait to be king.
Please tell them.
Man.
Please tell them the story that your dad told you along with it. I feel like they're synonymous. They're intertwined to me. They are intertwined.
Look, man. My biggest beef with Simba. It ain't just that he ran away from home.
Mm-hmm.
You left your moms in that situation, man.
Mm-hmm.
You left your family in that situation, man. And you wasn't gonna come back. It wasn't like, man, this wasn't a GTA San Andreas situation, right? This wasn't the block is too hot. I'm gonna get myself together and come back and retake the Grove. Like, that's not what this was. Like, Simba was gone. Like, he was like witness protection. He started a whole new life, right? And he left his moms in that situation, right? So that's like my biggest beef. But like, the story that Omar talks about.
As a great
the story. So I told this on a stream a while ago that like, and so in the essay I'm making all kinds of jokes about Simba. He's hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa, and I'm just like these are like two stoner dudes. Like, he just like, no worries. Like, motherfucker, you don't know my life. What do you mean no? Like, I got real shit happening at the crib. You want me to just drop all that, right? Yeah, they're like, that's literally some shit you do and that was in your past life, right? Mm-hmm. And so the analogy, and it's funny because, I asked this question to Omar earlier, man. Like, I hear my dad's voice of being like, all right, you keep fucking with these white people, man. You're going to forget about your family, man. Like, that's you don't forgot about the hood, man. Like, all right, like, if that's how you want to do. You just gonna go sell all the way out, right? Like, that's what Simba did, man. Simba, in another world, Simba's doing commentary on Fox Sports News, man. Like, that's what that was Simba's future. That was Simba's future.
Same with Sean Hannity.
Simba totally forgot about the hood, man. Like, so I look at that essay was like fun to write, and like that you want to talk about some polarizing shit. You want to talk about some polarizing shit when that went out. People were so. I mean, like, not too many people took it seriously, but like people were like very much like, how you gonna come at Simba like that? I'm like, Simba was like, oh my God, he was like one of my childhood heroes. I was like, yeah, when your childhood hero was a punk, man. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is like finding out that like Superman secretly couldn't bench press 20 pounds. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's rough all the way around, right?
What number is he on the list? What number is he on the list, Will? The greatest heroes of Disney. What number is he on the list again?
It's like 300 something, man. I don't know.
After who?
After like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and like the mice from Cinderella, man. Like I don't care, man. I rank them all the way at the bottom.
Here's the list of the best Disney heroes.
Here's the list. What's the list?
Number 1, Mulan. Number 2,
yes, the GOAT.
Aladdin.
Yeah.
Number 3, Moana. Number 4, Elsa. Number 24, the mice in Cinderella.
I mean, they put in work. They put in work, okay?
You love to say it, Cinderella. Number 48, Lilo.
Oh, too low.
That's debatable. That's debatable.
I think Lilo could go up a couple ranks. Number 136, Mulan's daddy's sword. And then there's a chain of ellipses. Number 378, Simba.
I thought he was in the 400s. I thought he put him at 400.
No, apparently he was clawing his way. Clawing his way back up.
God, man. I mean, like
those giraffe heads up there. Okay.
That was my biggest problem with Simba. My biggest problem with Simba is that he was gone. He was gone. He wasn't coming back, man. He wasn't coming back. One of the again, pardon the sensitivity of the language here. One of my favorite lines from the Boondocks that my wife and I always repeat back to each other is if people know the Boondocks, hopefully you remember the Catcher Freeman episode. And it's such a short line, but it's so great, and we use it for so many situations where the one slave is talking about how he's gonna ride with Catcher Freeman. He was like, Catcher Freeman come through here, he gonna kill all these crackers. He's like, you ain't never seen no nigga be gone, be like, I'm gonna be gone. Like that's the line. And that was Simba. Simba's like, you ain't never seen nobody be gone like I'm about to be gone. No, I ain't never coming back. Right? So like, but going back to Josh, going back to kind of how you're introing it, man, like I think, and Omar having those roots as being performers, right? I think there was a moment in the very beginning, like before the website actually launched. And I remember I wanted to do recaps. And I wanted to do Game of Thrones recaps. And I was watching Game of Thrones in real time, so I was recapping the episodes like right after they aired. And the first recap I wrote was literally like, and then Cersei went and talked to so-and-so. And then this person went and talked to so-and-so. And then up in Winterfell, John, and I was like, I'm bored as hell writing this. And I was like, I remember I said to Omar, I was like, all right, like, I know this like sounds crazy, but like, should I just like mess around and just like act like we like shooting the shit? I'm like, I'm gonna act like Game of Thrones is some shit that like happened in front of me last night, and like you and I come into work the next day, and I'm like, listen, this shit was crazy. I'm gonna tell this in my voice. And Omar was like, run with it. And so like that was the first time that I remember writing specifically like that, and just being like, I'm gonna tell this like I was telling it to one of my boys. And I'm gonna have all the analogies in it. I'm gonna have all the rap references in it. I'm gonna have all the current event stuff that I can bring into it, because this is the kind of storyteller I am, and this is how I would find it entertaining, right? We're gonna laugh about some shit, something's gonna be ridiculous. But you're going to get the story, and you're going to get the context, and you're going to get it in my voice the way I saw it. And like, that's just how we wrote, right? And that's decided how we wrote, and it was entertaining for folks, and it was a gateway in for people. And I think originally, when we first started reading recaps, like it was unique. It was unique. Like people were not writing in that way.
Nope.
Well, they weren't writing like the only people I remember writing like that was like, what was it? Big Ghost blog on like the
that was for albums though. That isn't that's my point. No one was doing it like we were doing.
But that's my point. He was like writing about rap albums, right? Mm-hmm. And so like you can make an association there. But like people, but like generally at that time, the way we were talking about mainstream TV shows, like Omar was writing recaps of Banshee, right? Like the way we were writing that was unique for those shows, for the typical audiences of those shows. Mm-hmm. And I think what we found is that doing these different kind of recaps, we found one, there were different ways to view the show, right? There was a different lens to view the show. And two, we found other Black people that were watching these shows that we just had not connected with before, right? And it was like, oh, they're like people would read our recaps and be like, oh, finally. Like I thought I was the only person writing, like watching the show. You know, one of the most fun recaps I had doing, I love doing Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones just wore me out, dude. It was an endurance match. At the end, man, I was like crawling to the finish, like, dear God, can the bricks fall on me next? Like that's kind of how I felt. But like I used to do Legend of Korra recaps when Legend of Korra was on. And I would get people hitting me up all the time that were just like, yo, like I'm Black, I'll watch this show, and I like it. It's fun to see it through this prism, and I'm happy that we were able to provide that for folks, in finding like a new way to watch a show or a new way to enjoy a show, I guess I should say.
Will's being real subtle right now with that, so I'm gonna give y'all the real shit with that, because every time this shit comes up, I will never let it go. He's like, oh, Game of Thrones became a chore for me, but the fucking streets loved it every time. Oh, when is the Game of Thrones recaps coming out? And he would write this shit at work when he was still doing the Clark Kent shit. So he write it at work, and he can't curse in the emails. So then he put it in the WordPress, and he's like, and who's always the man in the computer? I'm there. He's like, yo, Omar, can you get like, yeah,
Omar
sure.
was the man in the chair. Omar was the man in the chair.
I got a backspace, and I'm talking to my friend Big Mike, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to get this recap out for Will. Like, man, I gotta do a lot of. And he's like, what? Hey, Big Mike, we don't care. Get that out. Hey, you gonna keep talking?
He's like, we don't stop complaining. Stop complaining. Just get it out.
Get that out. We'll have the streets talking and whatnot. But me, I'm out here in Flash and Arrow and doing my little Banshee thing. Like, all right, cool. I may just go viral over here. All right, that's cool. I'm gonna just.
Yo, what's so funny? So I would be, so, you know, Game of Thrones will air on Sunday. And so I'm at work on Monday, like working my desk job. And because I'm writing the recap, I'm like writing from what I remember, right? I'm writing the recap, but my email has a filter on it. So I used to have to write the first letter of a curse word and then like a bunch of dashes or some shit, so I could send it through the email so that Omar could get it to edit it, and he'd have to put the curses in. Like,
at a point, I was like, okay, I know what you mean.
You ever edited where you had to put the curses into the document?
You're sending out the parental advisory, and you have to buy this 13 at Walmart. They're like, sorry, you can't buy the real one. Yo,
I feel like I was like a rapper with their first album. Like when I used to have to write stuff at work, I was hungry, man. I was about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I put my foot into this book, but maybe I'm too comfortable, man. I used to be on the job, hiding my windows, right? When people walking past, like I'm doing a recap, and I was like, look, let me minimize that word real quick. Oh, spreadsheets.
Tell about the bathroom. Tell about the Endgame. When Endgame dropped, or the Infinity War. When Infinity War dropped.
We do have a question that I want to make sure we get to. So
okay. This is really quick. So I remember when the trailer, because the trailers always drop in the middle of the day, right? They like don't have the common courtesy to wait till 6 p.m. when I get off work to write about it, right? So like a trailer drops in the middle of the day, and I remember it was the trailer for Endgame. Was it Endgame or Infinity War?
Endgame or Infinity War. I think it might have been Endgame. Yeah, it was Endgame.
It was Endgame. So the trailer for Endgame drops, and we used to write a lot of trailer reactions, right? And so I was like, someone hit me up like, hey, did you see? And I'm not even supposed to have my fucking phone like out, but like I got it in my pocket, and I'm like checking it like this and shit. And I was like, oh shit, that trailer dropped today? I was like, man, let me go to the bathroom real quick. I go into the bathroom stall, man. I'm watching the trailer. I'm like, oh, shit. You know what? I started doing notepad, man. I started writing in the notepad. I got back to my desk, like I was writing notepad, emailed that shit to. I had to write notepad, had to put the dashes in, emailed that shit to my work email, right? Like called it something like, you know, like 2009 documents or some shit, like whatever. Got to my desk, polished it up a little bit, sent it off to Omar. Like that was, yo, what we had to do for the content, I'm trying to tell you, we was working hard.
Wild.
We was working so hard.
Wild. Well,
but your question, I want to,
I know that y'all are running on East Coast time, so I know it's starting to get late. So I know we should probably start wrapping up. But we did have a question in the chat, and if there are some other quick questions, feel free to throw those in too. Paris Tokyo Ghoul was saying, so on the subject of grinding real hard, Black Nerd Problems has a website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Discord, and now a book, all of which take a lot of labor behind the scenes. Yo, I can't even keep up with just Twitter. Like I don't know how y'all do it. Can you talk about the decisions that go into growing the community without stretching yourselves too thin? What goes into those decisions, especially with added opportunities that may be coming from the book?
Well, I mean, Omar, I want to toss it to you in terms of like the maintenance in terms of like social media and presence and stuff like that. Just because like Omar has been so intricate in like keeping that machine turning, so to speak.
Man, listen, that shit is, because we got a Slack too. That shit is a job.
And a Slack?
And so
wait, you're on a Slack and a Discord?
Slack is the business. Discord's the
yeah. Discord's the party.
Yeah, Slack's the business, man.
Slack got casual Fridays. That's about it, man.
Yeah, that's wild. So we have proofreaders. So we have proofreaders that proof everything, and then when that's done, I will then schedule it out. And so I always try and like schedule that. And so the behind the scenes really is just like we have so many like staff members covering all of these things, right? And then like, okay, well I want to make sure that this is all getting seen. We have podcasters, we got streamers, and we have people writing for the site. And so like, all right, well I want to make sure this shit's all seen. Post it on Facebook. Okay, we got some streamers. We have Anissa make little clips of it. Then post that on Instagram. Post that on Twitter and whatnot. Like everybody else is doing their part and shit like that. So like I feel like I want to make sure that we have these folks being like as exposed as possible. Like you contribute to the site. You took time out your day to do this. For the love of game, for us, for yourself, whatever. Like I want to make sure I can get as many eyes on this. Want to make sure we can get as many eyes on this as possible. Put that shit on Instagram. Put that Instagram story. Put it on Twitter. Schedule it. You know what I'm saying? Like or sometimes maybe it's like spotlighting. Oh, it's just this streamer does this on this day. Put that on Twitch, and it's a lot. And so, a nigga done got furloughed back in the pandemic, you know what I'm saying? We using that advanced money to pay motherfuckers too and shit. So, so my job now is doing the, you know what I mean? Trying to move these bricks, Josh. Trying to move these content bricks, baby. You know what I'm saying? Push the content that way.
Content bricks.
You know what I'm saying? wholesome content. You know what I mean? You know, so I think it's
wait. Wholesome content.
Content bricks.
Bricks.
Yeah. The brick it's wholesome. That's a brick.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
This is the wholesome
you can't measure
discourse
that in gifts,
we need.
You can't measure that in gifts though. The HTML brick's a lot thicker. You know what I mean? 800 words, 1,200 words. You know, that's a different brick. You know, this is a physical brick right here. Internet, that's different bricks, man. Those are gig bricks, man. You know what I'm saying? So we're just trying to move those. We just move those accordingly. But it does it. So with the staffers doing it, you know, people on staff, you're contributing something you love. You're like, oh, we want to be part of Black and Pound. You know, you like writing and shit. And we've had people go on to do other things and gone on to like other sites.
Absolutely.
I'll expose that motherfucker right now. Paris Tokyo Ghoul. That's Jordan. He had to start podcast. That motherfucker's a fucking EIC of life hacker. We got people that are in A&E. We got someone that's writing like Star Wars. Brittany started writing. Okay, can I say that?
Oh yeah. The stories are. Yeah.
I was like, I know you're not asking me. I don't know.
The book is Star Wars from a different perspective or different viewpoint. I'm butchering the title, but it was an anthology of Star Wars stories that one of our staff members, Brittany and Williams contributed to, and so I think it's a testament, one, that like, you know, we just had a good eye for some talent, right? Like folks that could do some things, and have been able to either continue with BNP, or been like, hey, there's this other thing that I can do as well. I think what I'm most proud of is that we have a number of folks that are really good writers, that got their confidence and got their writing legs under them writing for BNP. And like, there's just really there's no better compliment than that, right? You know, I know some folks, not necessarily like, I don't have any websites that I'm thinking about or anything, but just like anything where like someone comes into a thing and then they grow and then they want to go do something else. And the folks that they started with might have certain feelings about it. But like, you know, man, like that's just a compliment. That's just a compliment to whatever you provided, whatever space was an opportunity. That's a compliment to that they were able to grow in that space to do more than what they were doing, possibly with you, or do more, or do what they were doing for a bigger platform, right? Like I take that as a compliment. And so, you know, to Paris Eagle's original question, I think we have been fortunate to find some folks that are pretty self-sufficient. That helps, right? In terms of like, you know, like I don't have to be like, hey, I need you to do this thing like every week, right? Like they know what they're good at what they do. They know what they need to do. They know that if there's support they need, they know where to go for that. And like, you know, I never want to be a micromanager. And so I'm very thankful for a number of folks that we have on staff. Eric Notion being one of them, for sure, that put in a ton of work, and are able to do it independent of direction because they're motivated in a particular way. And that helps because, you know, there's plenty of places where it's like, okay, someone is left to do something else, which means that there's a responsibility that needs to be picked up. And like, you understand it, but that's never fun, right? It's never fun picking up a responsibility on top of what you can safely assume is a lot of shit already that we had going on. I think also for me, I just learned to know when I need to step away for a minute. You know what I mean? I think this is a thing that people are learning in general all over the place about, you know, taking time. Like, you know, this whole work yourself to death thing is not the wave. You know, it used to be a badge of honor of how many hours a week you worked or whatever kind of bullshit. And just like, nah, man, I need this rest, dude. I think one of the things that being a parent has taught me is that it ain't about physical time, right? Like, it ain't about like, okay, I have this to do in the morning, I have this to do in the afternoon, and then I have this to do in the evening, and these things all take up this blocks of time. It ain't about time, man, for me. It ain't always about do I have the time, it's about do I have the energy, and like what things take energy throughout my day. Like I might have 3-4 hours of no commitments at the end of the day, but I might be white and I just might not want to fill that time. And so with BNP, I think over the years, me personally, I've learned to pace myself better, right? I've learned to let some shit go. Like, if I'm doing like responsibilities where I need to, relay some information to the rest of the team and we're working on a pretty good timer. And like, if I get home, like being out all day on a Tuesday night and I couldn't get that thing done, like I used to beat myself up about that. I don't, man. It'll get done tomorrow, right? Like I just that's that's my quote. Yeah, that's tomorrow's math. Like I don't have it in me today. And I think that has taken a lot of pressure off myself, of feeling like, because I'm always feeling like I'm going to be behind on something. There's always something to do. But I think in my life in general, have just kind of moved into the space about what's essential and what's not. And I take that approach with BNP too, right? Like, if it's a situation about paying people or if it's a situation about getting people resources they need, then I take those things more seriously. But if it's something that I'm like, this thing is usually done on a Tuesday and now it's Thursday morning, am I beating myself up about that? Not anymore.
Right.
I'm just not. And that has helped me tremendously. So
I think that's wonderful. The ability for you folks to be able to create those spaces and find that work that you can be proud of, but also the balance, because both of you having your lives outside of your work, right? And I imagine is not the same as not necessarily the same as when you started the site, but being able to grow alongside those commitments is real cool. Gosh. Well, I do have one. I have one essay, a piece of an essay that I'd love to close up a little bit with, and then obviously, like, if you folks have anything that you want to make sure that we hit or anything like that, I'm happy to make the time. I just also recognize again, it's 11:30.
Appreciate
Some
that.
people
Appreciate
might be
that.
sleepy.
I'm playing Tsushima after this, Josh. I don't know what sleep is.
Okay, wait.
I gotta save the spirit world. Man.
Okay, I just started that last week, and you're right. I was completely sleeping on that. Like that, and that multiplayer is really good.
Yeah.
And I cannot promise that now that you've said that, that will not be what I do after this is done.
Yeah. It's funny. Tsushima just like enraptured us in a way that I don't think we anticipated. Like, it looked like a good game coming out, and then Omar and I were playing it, and we're just like, man, like storytelling and the environment and this protagonist is just like moving us in a way that just did not feel typical in a lot of video games. And like, Josh, I hope you get to experience that as you're playing more of it. That the story, is like the samurai tale, but like I think it also helps, and we talk about this in certain anime and stuff like that. Like, the protagonist is going through a growth, right? But the protagonist is also very empathetic, in a way that we don't always get to see. And I think that, like, in certain storytelling, like Omar and I talk about Demon Slayer anime all the time, and like the protagonist Tanjiro is like of all the shonen characters is just like the most empathetic, and it just makes you want to invest in that story. So I hope you get that. And like, it's just is a weird thing that's like a lot of good games come out every year, but there was just something different about Tsushima. So
I cried in the end. Heavy. It was an ugly cry.
It's heavy.
I fucking love that game.
But you wanted us to read the essay.
Yeah. So let's do. Actually, I guess we'll do two, because I feel like I need you to do a little bit of the Wakanda salute, as much as there's a personal bias towards Into the Spider-Verse, because I adore that movie. I feel like coming up on good conclusion pieces.
Yeah.
The Wakanda salute is canon in the history of Black language, and I think I actually think if you were to start at after the bombastic success in the middle of 278,
okay,
and then run that through giving the salute back.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then, yeah.
So this is just to give a quick lead in. This was man, I was talking about this on Twitter the other day. It's not to be scoffed at, but like, we get a fair amount of celebrity passings every year, right? And man, this year, it feels like every year, but this year, just like a lot of black celebrities have passed earlier than we anticipated. And so it's a year ago now. Bozeman's passing just fucked me up, man. It just fucked me up. And a lot of this is in the essay, but I think one of the lines that I always think about that maybe is not in the essay is that, like, as black folks, like, Chadwick just loved us, man. He just loved us, man. He the way he honored us, the way he wanted to archive our stories in a way. There's always a joke about, Chadwick Boseman's going to do a biography for every black person, because he was doing all these movies. But like, you look back and it's like, oh, no, there was a reason that he took on those projects, right? Because he wanted to do our stories justice. And so anyway, so this is written about him. And in the first part of the essay, I talk about just like the very tactile, origins of the Wakanda salute, the two arms across your chest. After the bombastic success of Black Panther, the actors were everywhere. And as you would expect of the title character, Chadwick was everywhere. It followed the movie release blueprint, but obviously something was different. No movie with a predominantly black cast and a black director had ever made this much money before, which is a long way of saying no black film had ever brought this many white people to the theater. But it was also different because it didn't submit to the white gaze. Chadwick and the team worked on a specific non-colonized accent. Ruth Carter, the famed costume designer, wove together her own ideas of futuristic design with a reported 100 samples of clothing from across the African continent and its communities. And so, the guilt of enjoying something with largely black aesthetics that pandered to white folks didn't exist. So we were all aboard. And we all wanted nothing more than to see the cast talk about their experiences with the film, with each other, and with us after the release. I usually have a hard time with the way we conflate a character and an artist. When someone exclusively refers to a performer by the name of a character they played, I'm usually quick to state there's a real person under that costume and makeup. But Chadwick loved being Black Panther because we, black folks, loved him being Black Panther. And nobody did the Wakandan salute more than Chadwick. At the MTV Movie and TV Awards, he won for Best Hero and then gave his award to James Shaw Jr., who had fought off a gunman at a Waffle House. On The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, when he greeted fans expressing their gratitude towards Black Panther and the representation it held. At the Howard commencement ceremony, where he told the graduates about legacy and purpose. At the NBA All-Star Weekend, when he gave Victor Oladipo the Black Panther mask and the salute during the dunk contest. And because the living and breathing internet needs to validate his existence from time to time, the discourse became that Chadwick must be tired of doing the salute, that he looked like he was going through the motions. But then, Chadwick again showed us who he was, that he was one of us. On a Breakfast Club interview, he said, "I'm not going to tap dance. It means something. If you give me the salute, I'm going to give it back." Black folks know what tap dance means. There's a visceral reaction to invoking the action when it was predicated by a demand. Chadwick was showing a resistance to commodifying the action. The movie was breaking records. The salute wasn't a promotional tool anymore. If it ever was, it was a communication, a language we had become fluent in. In 2018, about a month after the movie had come out, I had to replace the tires on my car. Probably overdue. I walked into a tire place and handed them my keys. I was the only black person in the waiting room, including the staff, that I could see. They told me it would take 2 hours, and so I walked the 2 miles back home. When I returned 2.5 hours later, my car wasn't ready. Actually, they hadn't even started. The man behind the counter wasn't very helpful or empathetic. They got busy, he was saying. What I was seeing were cars that weren't here when I arrived earlier already being done. I was about to argue with this man, pin him down, make him admit that he had shoved me to the back of the line. But there was a black employee, the only one I could see now, who had watched the whole interaction from the mechanics bay. He came into the store lobby and told the other guy, I got him. They began to argue for a moment before the black employee shut it down. He's been waiting, man. I said, I got him. I'll do his car now. And when he looked at me, he shook his head. And then he gave me the Wakandan salute. And I smiled, probably the biggest smile that my body could produce. And I gave him the salute back.
Man, it like that salute transformed the meaning of an emoji.
It,
Like,
it did.
you know?
It did. I still get it. I feel like I feel like it was such a gift, right? And in the first part of the essay, I talk about first time you see the trailer, and him and Shuri is like the dad, boom, and like everyone's like, of course, like that shit's great, but like, how have we never done this before? Right? It felt so natural, and I think also like we just have to be honest with ourselves. Like, people were like, "Oh, Chatwood looks tired of doing the salute. He looks this, he looks that," and like, we didn't know. We didn't know what he was going through. We didn't know he was doing chemo in the morning and doing these appearances afterwards. And it's really just a testament to, no one, he wanted to be private, and that's a thing. But like, no one would have been like, no one would have faulted him for being like, yeah, I gotta chill for a minute. I gotta chill. I gotta, I need some time to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how important it was to him, right? Like, Chadwick was not out on the tour for money, right? He wasn't out there for fame. He was out there because he knew it was important to people.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing that I can't get over. I'm gonna stop talking about it because it's gonna fuck me up. But like, Chadwick was dying, and this was the thing that was important to him. Was like him giving that opportunity for people to give him the salute. Like, it fucking blows my mind that he recognized the importance of that, and how much we internalized that, and how much we wanted to run with that, and how much we wanted to take that from him and give it to somebody else. And that like he was literally passing away before our eyes. And that was the thing that was important to him, right? And so that's the last essay in the book, and it may have been one of the last essays I wrote for the book, and the shit was hard, right? Like, I just thought it would just be about, hey, I love Chadwick, rest in peace to Chadwick, and as I started writing about it, it really just dawned on me that I was like, man, I'm not okay. Yeah. Because you can be, we have a lot of great performers, and I don't know their social status or their politics or whatever, but like, there is no debate to me that Chadwick just fucking loved us, man. He just loved us, and he did what he could while he was here for us to give us hope and all these things. And I hope against hope that like the essay honors him in the way in the best way possible for me.
Yeah, it's it's very powerful, and it reminded me of a lot of some of the little pieces that I forgot, or weren't as emotionally salient. I remember the weekend after the movie came out was Emerald City Comic Con, and I did my first cosplay, which was wearing a suit my grandmother got me from a while back with this, with the necklace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, I've never been so popular. Uh, you know, but
The king is here.
it was just there were not very many T'Challas in the cosplay audience.
Yeah.
It was a convention in Seattle, so already your odds are not high.
Yeah.
But thinking about the ways that his work and his dedication, because I know that if he had come out and told that story earlier, and it was now all of a sudden, you know, all the news headlines are about every time he shows up, it's about his battle, right? Which I think would have been a worthy story, and one that we would have understood and appreciated. But for him to have gone through that, you know, essentially privately, and then to put together these performances that were the, you know, the last ones of his life, between Black Panther, and then, you know, we find out about the What If recording, right? Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, like.
Real quick, have you seen the latest episode of What If?
Mm-mm.
There's a line in there. There's a line in there. I don't even want to say anything about it because I don't want to give spoilers about it.
Oh.
But there's a line in there that so many other things are going on. But basically, the sentiment of the line was when someone passes, we have to, you know, we have to hold the part that we hold dear inside of us. And the person who speaks that line, and in the context of when they said that line, and this is in the latest What If, it just it almost fucking broke me. I'm like, oh, come on, man, come on. Yeah. So yeah, like the recording, like the What If thing, like that, like personally, I'm not trying to see Guardians of the Galaxy with Star-Lord. Who wants to watch that? Who wants to watch that?
Done.
You know what I'm saying?
Real
But
done.
no, Josh, I didn't want to pull away from that. Like,
No, not at all.
but yeah, man, I'm with you.
No, I agree. There's so much about that work and that dedication that is. I recognize the way that work and that dedication affected me in ways that I would have never expected. Ways that he certainly did not know about, right? But it's still important. And I think it's part of the reason that I have been so eager to, I don't mean for this to sound, you know, whatever way, but it's the reason that I've been so eager to talk about this book and to find opportunities to get people to understand the work that you put together here. You know, I have a lot of personal resonance and admiration for the work that you've done with BNP, because like I know what it's like to have those beginnings. Like I understand the concepts of many of the things that you've gone through, but whereas Black Nerd Problems handles situations head on in ways that I with Intelligame have had more subtly, right? Like when you have Black Nerd Problems in the title, people will come for you for ignorant shit off the bat, right? But at the same time, it gives this opportunity to give this validation, these opportunities, this community that folks, I think, oftentimes may not even realize that they're missing, right? I'm one of those people who I didn't realize how much I was missing this space until getting the chance to see it and to see the work that you and so many other people, including Chimeric Notion, you know, have put into to make it what it is. And I do think it's incredibly important. And so I might be harping on it a lot, but it's because I genuinely think this is important. Obviously, you know, Friends wrote a book and it's going to be on a shelf. I want to talk about it, but
Thank you.
But particularly considering the work that you've done, not just in putting this together and recording the audiobook or whatever, but building the communities and standing up for the things that you have, for building the families that you have. and being willing to take on what it means to build legacy. It's just incredibly powerful, which is why I'm super excited. I'll still probably buy the audiobook. I feel like I got off lucky. They sent me a copy because I'm special.
So you know what's wild is that like they really did, and I don't know. There's like no other way to really do it. But like they emailed us and they were like, "Hey, so Simon & Schuster wants to do an audiobook," and like I thought they may want to, but they hadn't said anything yet. It's kind of late in the process. And I was like, all right, bet. And they were like, so do you want to record it or would you like to have someone else record it? And I remember looking at Omar, I was like, oh my God, we would be so mad. We would be so mad. Like, listen, I'm going to try and give the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to try and give the benefit of the doubt because we all know where this could go, right? I'm going to try to give the benefit of the doubt. And I'm gonna think that the call, if Omar and I did not do the audiobook ourselves, that the call would have been, hey, looking for some professionally black voice actors to read this audiobook. Okay? Like, I don't know that we would have got like Chris Judge or some shit, right? But like, I'm just saying, I'm going to assume they would have got some black people to do it. Having said that, the book is so specifically our voice that I was just like, I can't even imagine like a whole book. Like, okay, maybe an essay. Like maybe an essay, but a whole book.
But Nathan Bridgewater come back, yeah.
You're right.
But Omar, who does your voice in the audiobook? Anybody who does your voice in the audiobook?
You asked me this before, and I don't have it. It'd probably be Donald Glover.
Donald Glover does your voice?
That's a good pick.
Because of the internet? Okay.
I need so. Oh no! I was like, no. Chidi. It was Chidi. Was what I tell you. Chidi. It was Chidi from.
William Harper Jackson.
William Harper Jackson.
Yeah, my good one. That's a good one.
All right.
I don't.
As well.
I don't know. Oh man, I asked.
You can't ask and then not have.
I made the crucial mistake of asking a question that I didn't have an answer for myself.
TC Carlson from Kyle from Living Single.
See, but here's the thing. Like, I gotta be honest with myself. Hmm. So on the radio voice scale, right? Like, I don't even have the best voice on this stream. Like, Josh is like here, right? And then like you and I are fighting for the middle somewhere, right? Yeah. Like, I don't have a bad voice on audio, but like I'm not doing Midnight Grooves with Josh, right? So like I feel like it's the filter. So, I feel like it would be disingenuous for me to pick someone that's like a voice god when I am not, right? So I can't go with old school Kratos. That don't sound right. Like, what part of the game? Like, look, you're gonna get this PlayStation 2 Kratos and you're gonna like it. I don't know who would do my voice. I mean, look, I'm not gonna say no.
Yeah, you do.
Who?
It's either Lance Reddick or man's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that plays Captain Holt.
You know what? Lance is my. I love Lance Reddick to death. It's not in the book, but I actually wrote an essay about Lance Reddick that was just like a celebration of Lance Reddick, and he actually read it and like shared it and stuff. It was amazing. Yes, Andre Bowers, who Omar's speaking about. Yeah. But Lance Reddick, I love Lance. He's in everything I like. He's in everything I like. And he's just like the coolest person. So like if Lance Reddick did the voice again, still a voice god, right? And I am not. So it's still graduating up. I'm still falling up the stairs on that one. But I would not say no to Lance Reddick reading. And also like unless you've seen specific stuff, Lance Reddick is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like his comedic timing is so damn good. Like he does like comedic sketches and stuff. It's so funny. I feel like he could read the audiobook and it would be pretty amazing. It'd be pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh. Man, when he did that reading of whatever the Reddit post no, never mind. Don't
For Destiny?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
see, now I'm just gonna end up playing Destiny, and I said I was gonna play Ghost of Tsushima,
and you said Tsushima.
I committed to Tsushima.
So John, how immersed are you using the Japanese language on Tsushima, or are you doing the English? So the first time through, at least the first time through, you got to do the Japanese, man. And it's just put you there, man. Just put you all the way there. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a samurai flick, man. Like this is my stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I just had to ask.
I gotta do it. We will talk about. We will
talk
have those
Tsushima.
Discussions.
Yes.
Let's take them out with the outro, folks. Let's go ahead and
the outro.
2 page.
Taking a church, yeah.
281.
Yeah.
I gotta also say, like, shout out to our editor who was like the book was pretty much done, and she was like, "You guys want to do like an intro and outro?" And like, I remember like before I answered, like I'm talking to Omar, I was like, "No, I don't want to do a fucking intro and outro. Like, what are you talking about?" And then like we started to talk through the intro, and I was like, "Damn it, that was a good idea." I guess we're doing this now. It was one of those things where I was like, man, the intro sounds dumb. Omar, how would the intro even go? And then Omar's like, well, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, da-da-da. I was like, shit, actually, that is a good idea. So shout out to her for having sight beyond mine. The outro, let's see. I'll start it off then. I can't believe they let us write this shit. I can't believe they let us write this shit. They put it in the book and they're putting it on shelves. Anyway, you can't see it, but the entirety of this outro is taking place in a red 1997 Range Rover that has "Anime is Life" written on the windshield and the Uchiha clan's Sharingan painted on the hood of the truck. William is driving and Omar is leaning out the window shouting the following.
Yeah, motherfuckers! You wanted that black subculture nerd shit? Now you got it. You wanted that blurred substance? There's 200 plus pages for you. You wanted everything from Aloy to The Wire? Well, there the fuck it is. We done gave it all to you and Kia X gon' give it to you. Are you not entertained? Are you not satisfied? Fuck heart and soul. We done went and put all of our all-spark in this shit for y'all.
On everything. If you told me 10 years ago, hey, Will, one day you and Omar are gonna go so deep in the nerd shit, you're gonna write a book about it. And motherfuckers gonna be up in Barnes & Noble, Target, or half-price books buying that shit. I would have sent you back to the store with that shit like Cube told Regina King in Boys in the Hood. This right here is for all the black nerds who secretly love Captain America while being on the board of your school's black student union. This is for the black nerds that grew up during the zenith of hip-hop but wore a Portishead record out. This is for the black nerds who identify with every single black character in Higher Learning. The athlete, the nerd, the revolutionary, the teacher. We got you. Just know we got you.
All those years of waking up at 6 a.m. to catch the Sailor Moon and Iron Man cartoon block before school. Every action figure bought, every pop culture t-shirt, and every combo ever pulled off in a video game was all in preparation to deliver this book for the culture. Takes glasses off and holds them in the air. To all my nearsighted and farsighted fellows, I gotta put them back on because I can't read without that shit. We bequeath this to you, so take it. Take this. Our love for anime, our anger over fanfics and webcomics that have gone unfinished, and all of our sorrow for shows canceled in their prime.
Remember when my parents asked me who I wanted to be for Halloween one year, and I was like Gandalf the Grey with all the strength in my chest, and my dad looked at me for a long ass time and said, Nah, you want Gandalf the White. When he came back and led everyone to glory. No, Dad, the gray shit hit harder. I'm a quest starter, Dad. I am a shepherd, B. Let me live. Anyway, Pops was mostly right. Something about sacrificing and coming out shining on the other side just hit different. Omar and I said the nerd game needed more hip-hop references. More, you only know this shit if you grew up in a black home, but here's how it relates to X-Men dialogues. I'm glad y'all took this journey with us. I'm glad y'all invested in some dudes that say motherfucker as easily as drawn breath.
Look at how we all connected through nerddom, man. My mother used to read The Hobbit to my siblings and me when I was a baby. Ever since the day Mom bought Storm as my first action figure and I found my father and brother's old comic books, this book was destined to happen. My parents initiated me for this life not knowing it would be taken this far, not knowing that their boy would say, fuck getting a government job or becoming a preacher. What the world really needs is these bars about Scott Summers being an underrated X-Man. What the world really needs is someone to remember all these black characters in comic book limbo. What the world really needs is to know that Cars 3 is an underrated Pixar banger. And I hope, having read this book from Will and I, at some point after finishing a chapter, you felt relaxed and comfortable enough to say, I needed that.
Shout out to our parents being the guiding nerddom in our lives. And shout out to the folks raising nerdy ass, black ass kids today. I know them getting in the door to explore lore and fan fiction sounds crazy, but let it happen. I know they want to make YouTube videos about the origin of those Marvel hip-hop covers and all their references. Allow it. John Boyega head nod. Nerd shit can lead to big things, yo. Big things.
Y'all, I don't know if the yeah. Applause, team. Applause. That is wonderful.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for having us, man.
Yo.
Thank you. This was so very fun. This was very fun.
It is great to have you here. Let's get some hearts in the chat for Omar and Will taking us through nearly 3 hours of phenomenal Black Nerd Problems content.
3 hours. That is as an onslaught of nerddom.
It is
right there.
The book is gonna be. Give them the breakdown. Where can they find the book? What's all happening?
Books are sold. For one, if you want to get the book, Google or Black Nerd Problems. If you have the means, because as a former bookseller and friends that are booksellers, if you have the means, definitely check in with your local bookstore. A lot of local bookstores will deliver too, right? So if you don't want to go out, kind of a thing, Indie Bound is a great place to kind of find your local bookstore. Convenience sake, get it wherever it's sold. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you got some rewards card, some rewards mile or something you're trying to rack up. You know what I'm saying? I ain't hating on that. Get it where you can. The audiobook is also available. Should be from the same places. You should be able to order the audiobook. I know Audible is probably the most sought way you can get it. I'm going to imagine that eventually it's going to be in some libraries. So if you on Libby like me, you might be able to catch it there too. So wherever you can get it, we appreciate the support, or at least like spreading the word, letting people know that it's out there. And then what we are doing next week. We'll have a good amount of appearances we're doing next week, but the official book launches on Tuesday, September 14th. Thank you for that in the chat. September 14th, and it's gonna be fun. We have Jordan Calhoun, who's been with BNP almost since the very beginning, very close to the very beginning, and maybe we'll get to talk about this. How Jordan joined BNP is a funny story in itself. That man had to fight and claw his way to get onto BNP. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we'll be doing that on Tuesday next week, and like, you know, you can buy the book, you can just come and hang out. It's gonna be stuff like this, and the only difference will be, I think we're gonna talk a little bit more about Black Nerd Problems, the organization, because Jordan, you know, is part of Black Nerd Problems and an editor and everything, and so that's just gonna be a fun conversation to have. But yeah, we're gonna be around, man. We're gonna be around all next week. If you can get the book, please do. But you'll definitely get to check us out and where we're going to be reading from it. I just want to say, and then I'll shut the hell up for the rest of the night. None of this was planned. None of this was planned for us to put out a book. And it's important to me because there's going to be more books, hopefully, like this that come after this, right? Where the language is authentic to the voice of the writers. Especially I'm talking about like marginalized writers that right now have an idea in their head of what published work looks like, right? Let's be very clear, like the publishing world is still super just like to the 18th power white. It really is. And there's a new publishing scandal like every 2 weeks, right? But Omar and I were able to write a book where we didn't have to compromise these things, where we had a lot of fun doing it. And to support that, whether you're buying the book or spreading the word, is an endorsement of that. And I hope that more folks that do something in the realm of what we do are able to find the same kind of success that we had. Because, you know, there's right now, there's a 37-year-old white woman in Topeka, Kansas that signed a 6-figure deal to write 2 YA fantasy novels that you will never hear about. Okay, like these deals get made daily, right? These deals get made daily. And like 2 black dudes writing about nerd culture, it don't happen all the time on a big publishing house. So whatever success our book has, I hope it's able to spur more books like this. And whether that's people buying the book or spreading the word about it, like all the support helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Omar, you got closing thoughts?
You knew what it was when you came to the website 7 years ago. Brought you the motherfucker, gathered all the Infinity Stones and motherfucking staffers to put this shit out. We ain't know a book was gonna come out, but all right, we're gonna do that shit to the best of our goddamn ability. We got shit in here for anime. We got shit in here for gaming. We want that black shit. We got that shit in here too. Oh, I'm not black and I read it. Yeah, you can read that shit. Don't complain about the fucking language. That we ain't code switching a goddamn thing in this motherfucker, son. That's what the fuck we do. Black nerd problems, man. We got the solutions. The solutions right motherfucking here and shit. Yeah. Yeah, this ain't alcohol talking. That shit wore off like 2 hours ago, too. Yeah, this is really me now. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna flex the entire time. Josh does the whole sign out. Yeah, sign him out, Josh. Sign us out, Josh.
Please fade him out.
I was like, hold on. Let me kick you out the call real quick. Hold on.
Just flex to the end. Flex to the end. The flextro.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. You can find Black Nerd Problems on Twitch, twitch.tv/Black Nerd Problems. You can find Will on Twitter at Will Evans Writes. You can find Omar on Twitter at Omar Holmon. I gotta go work out now. I thought I was gonna play Tsushima. Now I gotta go and do push-ups for the next 5 minutes.
What you do is you boot up Tsushima, and then every time you finish a mission, you pause it and you do push-ups. Like this is how you hit all the bases tonight, right? To keep up with the Holmans, as they say, right? You play some Tsushima, you do a duel, and then you do some push-ups. Like that's the breakdown.
This is from failed duel. This is all from failed duel. Every time I failed, 20. Every time I failed, it was a lot of my arms hurt.
Josh, I just want to say real quick, thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. And you know, you and I have been friends for a while now. What Intelligame was then, has become, continues to be. It's inspiring, man. It's inspiring, and I think the community is beautiful. The community is so damn supportive of each other, and like that's a very, very cool thing to watch happen and be a part of. And thank you for welcoming us into this for an evening. You know, I felt very attended to as they say, by you and by the folks in the chat and the people watching. So I just want to say thank you again for that.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to have the opportunity to share the work that you've been doing. I am incredibly proud of this community and the ways that we build each other up and support our successes. So yeah, thank you to you for being here. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat. Shout out to the mods. Throw just a round of hearts in the chat, folks. Just if you got hearts of any kind, throw them in the chat. Because this has been a fantastic night.
I want to say best of luck to you for chopping this up for YouTube or whatever. the marathon stream that we've done.
Oh my gosh, editing is never my favorite part of the job, but it's but I'm thankful to have the opportunity to do it. So
that's what's up. Thank you, man.
All right, team. That is gonna do it for us tonight. Yeah, this has been absolutely wonderful. I'm looking forward to the event on September 14th. Make sure that you check that out. Tickets are available at on the Eventbrite, so you can grab those tickets, grab your books, grab your audiobooks, grab your popcorn, whatever. Do the things you do, folks. But it has been a fantastic night. So we're gonna call it. Till next time. Keep your eyes up. Keep your hearts open. Keep Intelligaming. We'll see you soon.